Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today we are going to be once again diving into Warhost. Now, as you guys know, both Warhost and Aspect Host have been seeing a lot of competitive play, and it has to do with Warhost and Aspect Host's ability to deal with the armies that are currently besetting the meta and just basically the boogeyman of competitive play right now, which are the Imperial Knights, Death Guard, Chaos Knights, and some of the other toughness skew that we have been seeing pop up all around us. Now, I will say this, both Warhost and Aspect Host want to play a very similar aggressive style of play. They want to be able to kind of destroy whatever they want, whenever they want, and just leave your opponent basically begging for mercy. And I think Aspect Host definitely does that just a tiny bit better in that they can do more damage, but Warhost can access those targets a little bit earlier because of some of the stratagems and abilities that Detachment offers, like the greater movement. So what we're going to be doing in today's video is basically looking at a Warhost list that I have written up, which could honestly easily also work for Aspect Host, ironically enough. And we're going to be going through it. I'm going to be talking to you guys about the different choices I made for this list. And then we're going to be hopping over to Tabletop Simulator so I can show you how to set it up and how to play the first couple of turns with it and how to have success with it in your own games. Now, the other thing I will say is that I do plan on doing a Aspect Host video like this within the next week or so. I want to get, in some play tests with it obviously first. I've play tested this list a couple of times, a couple weeks ago I messed around with this list and basically this is the final iteration of it. It is pretty strong, I will say that, and I think it is very competitive. Now, what I will say is obviously you can make personal changes based on a number of factors like terrain, setup, missions, all that kind of stuff in competitive play. But of course, this is just assuming that you're going to be playing on GW terrain, and it's assuming that you're going to be, playing some of the more basic missions. But I do believe that even some of the more, complex missions, this list can actually do very well in. So, honestly, think it's pretty strong. Now, the last thing I'll say before we dive into the list is that I do want to quickly go over the detachment rules for Warhost and the stratagems and enhancements real fast so we have a better idea of what we're working with and what's possible. Now, as I said before, Warhost does give you more mobility, and that's in the form of the detachment bonus and some of the strats. The detachment bonus basically gives an extra inch to all of your battle focus abilities that give you extra movement. So things like, swift as the wind, instead of a 2-inch move, it'll give you a 3-inch move. And stuff like fade back or, opportunity seized will also have d6 plus 2 instead of d6 plus 1 inches of movement. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it gives you an extra token to work with. So it gives you an extra battle focus token as well, which is also very good. Now, on to the stratagems. These stratagems are pretty diverse and they cover a lot of ground that other detachments in the Eldar book don't really have. So one is we have lightning fast reactions, which is a defensive stratagem. It's a -1 to hit in combat or from shooting. It's very powerful, and actually I think it's pretty good. A lot of people kind of don't really take it seriously a whole lot, but there are a number of instances where your opponent is just not going to have enough firepower to deal with one of your units if you throw -1 to hit on it. So that is a situationally good stratagem for the list. The next one is Skyborn Sanctuary, which is going to be a get back in a transport strat. This works out really well, especially with Fire and Fade. So, of course, we have Fire and Fade, which is a d6 plus 1 move after you shoot. Really good stratagem. It only works on infantry, so, infantry only, but it is very powerful in that it can allow your units to get multiple activations, and it can actually allow you to get in and out of a transport as well. A lot of people in competitive play are running, a squad of, Dark Reapers with Malgan Raw and a Falcon or something like that, or they're running, Fire Dragons and a Wave Serpent. In this particular list, we're only going to have one vehicle, little, spoiler there for you, but Fire and Fade can also be used on normal infantry units to essentially do the same thing. The next stratagem that we have access to is Feigned Retreat. Sorry, forgot about it, forgot the name of it, but it's Feigned Retreat, Fall Back, Shoot, and Charge, right? Very good strat for 1 CP, and honestly, one of the cornerstones of the detachment. It basically means that you can't get tied up in combat. So, your Space Wolf player is not going to be able to kill your Wave Serpent and then overrun into a Fire Dragon unit without you just backing out with a free CP and just blasting them away, right? So, very useful stratagem. And then lastly, we have Blitzing Firepower, which gives sustained hits 1 to a unit that's shooting a target within 12 inches. Great for Fire Dragons, really good for Fire Dragons, also really good for Swooping Hawks, especially with the combos that we have set up in the army list. This is going to be one of the go-to damage dealing detachment strats. So those are the stratagems. What do we have next? Well, one more stratagem. Sorry, I forgot about this. Webway Tunnel. This allows us to basically pick a unit from a board edge, which is, near a board edge, friendly unit, at the end of your opponent's fight phase, and basically uppy downy, throw them back into reserve, and then they can come in on your next turn or in the future, which is really good. So you can take a unit of Swooping Hawks, right, throw them in reserve, turn 1, and then put them back into deep strike. They won't be able to throw a grenade if you do that, but they will be able to shoot and reposition themselves fairly easily. You can also do this to a number of other units in the list. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the enhancements last, and then we'll talk about the list. So the enhancements real quick, we have basically the Phoenix Gem, which is exactly the same as it was before. Kind of expensive, not really worth it in my opinion, but a funny troll option if you want to just use it on an Autarch Wayleaper and just, use Webway Tunnel and just deep strike them in the enemy backfield and then have like a Phoenix Gem unit in the backfield. Really funny. Not that competitive, but funny for 115 points. It'll get you your laughs. It'll get you your kicks. Also can be kind of useful if you need to score a secondary objective, but kind of, honestly too situational for my taste. Then we have Timeless Strategist, which gives you an extra battle focus token, which is okay. It's 15 points. It's not that expensive, but typically, unless you have, points to spare in your army, you don't take it. Then we have Psychic Destroyer, which gives +1 damage to a Farseer's psychic weapons. You can also take it on a Warlock for like a damage to Destructor, but it's not really that good in my opinion because it's 25 points. So it's very expensive. It is kind of good on a Farseer, but again, you're rarely going to take it. Then lastly, we have, I think it's called Supreme Strategist. I'm going to check right now, actually. We can just check. So we have access to, Gift of Foresight. That's the last one. So Gift of Foresight basically gives us a free CP reroll once per battle round. Not bad. It does, basically take up your CP reroll. So it is nice for an Autarch or something like that. But again, something that's kind of situational and not super great. I think in some situations it's decent, like if you want to put it on the, Autarch that's guiding a squad of Dark Reapers with an Aeldari missile launcher, it's really good because you can reroll that damage roll. But other than that, just kind of meh, right? So those are the enhancements, and now let's dive into this list that we have here. So I went very hero heavy, actually a little bit over 600 points in both epic and regular characters. Honestly, I think you could go a little lighter on this, but I will say that every one of these epic heroes does help the list do what it wants to do, which is kill the opponent. And honestly, each one of these characters is very cost effective for what it can kill. So first off, we have Eldrad. Now, Eldrad's a very common pick, usually in Eldar lists, and that is because you get the extra CP, so you can be very CP, happy, I guess you could call it. You can have a lot of extra CP, and it allows you to use the CP that you gain from Eldrad to pick a new secondary if you get a really bad secondary that turn. So let's say you draw Assassinate and you know you can't assassinate that turn. That is a dead secondary. Eldrad allows you to re-roll that into something good. So Eldrad has single-handedly won me games just because he's been able to turn secondaries that are going to score me nothing into secondaries that are going to score me 5 points. That's game winning right there. And honestly, that's why I think Eldrad's an auto-include. Now, added to that, Eldrad also has Doom, so he helps the army kill stuff faster, which is another reason why he's awesome. So I love Eldrad. He's definitely an auto-include in my book. Next, we have Fuegan. Fuegan helps fire dragons kill their targets much better, especially in Warhost. You have that extra little bit of distance, and that really means that you can push your fire dragons from a wave serpent to obscene levels on the battlefield. If your opponent can't screen you physically out with models, which a lot of these armies that we're seeing in meta, like Imperial Knights, Death Guard, Chaos Knights, they're not going to be able to screen their models effectively or move block your units because, again, they have a bunch of knights. So your fire dragons are going to be able to get deep within enemy territory and just blow stuff up. They're just going to be able to go crazy with melta weapons. Added on to this, we have Fire and Fade, which can then lead into a Skyborn Sanctuary. And because we have Eldrad, we're going to have some extra CP to, work around there. And for 2 CP, you can move a unit, essentially D6 plus 1, and then plus 6 inches back into a Wave Serpent. So you can actually, extend the range in which they're going to be hitting things by quite a bit, especially since Fuegan increases the threat range of fire dragons from 12-inch guns to 18-inch guns, increases the melter range by 3 inches, and increases the threat of the Exarchs considerably. He's also one of those guys that basically gets back up on death. So even if they manage to kill the whole unit, right, they kill the Wave Serpent, they kill the guys inside, Fuegan will get up on a 2+ and will be able to potentially kill another vehicle. He is an awesome character. Next up is Jane Czar. She's going to be joining some Howling Banshees, of course, and she's really good because she does a ton of damage to character units. She's really good at assassinating, especially tough characters like Lords of Contagion. Because she's able to reroll wounds against character units, you can very easily destroy whole units of, Death Shroud Terminators. And I mean, when I mean whole units, I don't mean like the big squads of 6. I mean like the small squads of 3 with the Lord of Contagion. Typically speaking, a squad of Howling Banshees with Jane Czar can do a very good work into that squad and trade up. She's very effective between her shooting attack and her close combat, being able to reroll wounds and having anti-infantry 3+. She's very good. She also gives a 6-inch auto advance, which you can put on top of a 3-inch movement, so you can just fly across the board. Very strong. Lhykhis is the next character that we're going to be putting on our list, and basically she's a force multiplier and a lethal hit devastator. She can actually go into knights and finish them off if you don't finish them in your shooting phase. So basically what she has is she has, with her Warp Spiders, a ton of lethal hits in combat that can also be re-rolled. So, the Exarch gets 10 attacks, which are like twin linked. So you're re-rolling a bunch of wounds, you're getting a bunch of lethal hits. Really good. On top of that, Lhykhis makes critical hits work on 5s, which, as I kind of spoke about before, this is really powerful in combination with blitzing firepower, giving you sustained hits 1, which will mean your sustained hits 1 will crit on 5s as well if you activate that for the shooting phase. So she's activating her own unit, giving her own unit a big damage boost with lethal hits, and she's also boosting other units in the army considerably. Swooping Hawks are absolutely amazing with her because with those lethals proccing on 6s, they're now going to be proccing on 5s against targets in the opponent's army, which essentially means that those lethals are going to be very, very deadly. And also, being able to charge after you, kind of warp jump is good, and it's a good thing to, hold in your back pocket as well. Next up, we have Malgan Raw. You put him with the Dark Reaper squad, and again, very effective at dealing mortal wounds to your opponent. I like putting a Tempest Launcher with them just so that even when they're out of line of sight, you can, fire the Tempest Launcher off and you're potentially doing mortal wounds to everything in the vicinity. Not always going to be that effective, but over the course of a 5-turn game, you can actually rack up quite a few mortal wounds with the unit. And also, he has devastating wounds base on his weapon, so that is very good as well. And in matchups where you have a primary objective that requires you to complete an action on an objective, like for example, when you're burning objectives or stuff like that, basically having a character that can auto battle shock at a -1 is really good. So not auto battle shock, but force you to take a test at a -1 is really good to have in your army. Now, as for our regular character here, we just have a regular Autarch. I like the Autarch to put with Howling Banshees because it gives me a defensive option if my opponent has something in their army that can go first and that can bypass movement blockers. So, if your opponent has really fast models that can either move through enemy models or, fly or do something like that to where it gets really hard to move block, this guy gives you a free heroic intervention on the first turn, just in case you go second. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll get your 1 CP, you'll be able to overwatch something, and then you'll be able to heroically intervene something else. And I think combined, that really dissuades a lot of opponents from trying to alpha strike you because they're going to potentially lose 2 units when doing that, right? They're definitely going to lose a unit when you heroically intervene, and they're going to probably lose half of a unit when they get overwatched by something, which we do have some pretty serious overwatch threats in this list. And of course, he's going to be armed with the Starglaive and Fusion Gun, and that's it. We're going to try to keep him as cheap as possible besides that. As for our battle line, we're going to have 2 units of Corsair Void Reavers. I kind of just recently had a video about these guys. They have 10 OC for 5. They're a really good high damage dealing unit for the 60 points that you pay. They have grenades, they have power weapons, you can give a blaster, which I did take, by the way. I do like the blaster for just killing, regular Space Marines. It does a very good job. It's AP -4, which means Marines will get no save against it unless they have cover, in which it'll be a 6-up. So usually with the reroll to hit on objectives, you're able to take out a Space Marine with it, and the rest of the unit with a grenade and charging can easily take out the rest. So a 60-point unit can trade up to 80 points very easily, grab an objective, force your opponent to be able to deal with it, which is extremely powerful. Also, you could just run these guys up to a, Imperial Knight, a 10 OC model that's holding their expansion, and take it away from them. So a lot of times these guys are good for multiple different reasons against multiple different armies in the meta. Okay, let's talk about Storm Guardians. So Storm Guardians are one of my favorite units. They provide sticky objectives, which really plays into the more aggressive playstyle of this type of list, meaning that if you're going up against an opponent like Imperial Knights and they don't really have a lot of ways to get in your backfield, Storm Guardians are a great way to just sticky your backfield objective and you don't really have to worry about it for most of the game. This is also good against armies like Death Guard, who again can't really, unless they're really beating you horribly, unless they're giving you a quite the beat down, they can't really get into your backfield because they're really slow. So Storm Guardians help you secure those objectives early on in the game and give you primary points guaranteed. Also, they're really good at screening your backfield, so in case an opponent can get back there, there's a lot of models that can stop them. Between Storm Guardians and the other backfield units you're going to have to just try to, kind of cover your backfield like Dark Reapers and stuff, you should be good to go, and there shouldn't be a lot of room for your opponent to deep strike. For our infantry units here, for our other data sheets, we have a squad of Dark Reapers with a Tempest Launcher. And this is just to help Malgan Raw out a little bit. I like the Tempest Launcher because it allows us to spread some mortal wounds, even if we don't have line of sight to anything, in the first couple turns. So our Dark Reapers are putting pressure on an opponent from turn 1. Other than that, Reaper launchers are really good against light to medium vehicles, and they do good chip damage, and that's about it. Fire Dragons, we have a squad of 10 of these boys, and they're just basically there to destroy enemy targets. We're there to kind of deploy them, blow up a couple knights, fire and fade, get back into a transport, do it all over again the next turn. There's certain staging points on several of the GW layouts, as well as some WTC layouts, where you can put a Wave Serpent. Fire Dragons from it can go 3 inches, plus their movement, plus 3 inches, and against the Knights, you're usually not going to get overwatched by much. So you could even just say, I'm not going to use the no overwatch. Of course, you could use that, but, whatever. You could do an advance roll and then shoot something with assault, kill it. You could even kill 2 targets with it, fire and fade back, and then get back in the transport, and then basically do it all over again the next turn. So it is a little bit points intensive, but I'll show you guys on TTS how you can get the most out of it later on. Next up, of course, 2 units of Howling Banshees. Why Howling Banshees? They're very aggressive units that can be played either defensively as a heroic intervention unit or aggressively as a forward striking unit that you're taking objectives away from opponents. You're stopping them from being able to score things like sabotage, right? Like your opponent is going to have to sabotage with more important units, not just infantry, because Howling Banshees can kill the sabotaging unit. So my favorite thing with Jane Czar specifically is if my opponent is going to go for the old sabotage in the middle of the battlefield behind a wall tactic, I could just send Jane Czar after them, kill them, stop the sabotage, deny my opponent 3 points, and if my opponent kills Jane Czar in the gang afterward, then, well, it is what it is, right? We all trade units for points. That's how the game works. On the other hand, Jane Czar, if your opponent's not doing something like that, can really mess up a lot of different units in multiple types of armies. So that is also the case. By the way, Jane Czar is just straight up better against knights because a lot of knights have the character keyword, and she does get rerolls against them to wound. So when she's charging in there with her Howling Banshees, not only are you able to use the aspect token to, do some damage with the Exarch, damage 3, but you're also able to reroll wounds with Jane Czar. So she can throw her Triskelet, reroll wounds, get a couple wounds that way perhaps. And then of course you can go in there, your strength 6, but knights have just been reduced to toughness 11, which means you're wounding on 5s. So you get 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 5s with rerolls. She actually doesn't do bad damage against knights. I know, shocker. You would think she would be really bad against them, but she's actually better than you think. So we got 2 units of Banshees, 1 with Jane, 1 with the Autarch. We do have a 5-man unit of Rangers. We need something with Infiltrate in the army to block enemy infiltrators. That's just your go-to. And also to prevent your opponent from denying scout moves to your Corsairs. And honestly, that's about it. They're really good at scoring. They're really good at move blocking and screening. Rangers are great for 55 points. Now, we do have 1 unit of 10 Hawks. Now, I know a lot of people in competitive play are running like 25 Hawks, 30 Hawks, 20 Hawks, a ton of swooping Hawks. I honestly prefer to go a little bit wider with a little bit more unit diversity, but you could very easily make the case for a lot of swooping Hawks. They are very good. They do a ton of mortals. They have really good damage in Warhost and Aspect Host. And even if your unit dies, in a 20 or 30 Hawk list, you can just bring another unit of Hawks in to do the same thing the next turn. So Hawks are good. Honestly, though, I don't know. They're not really my bag in that many squads, but I'm sure it works fine if you have enough practice with them. I'm just going to use a squad of 10 in this list because I think 10 is a very good unit size for Warhost because they really benefit a lot from Lhykhis, which you're always going to have in this detachment. And if they get close enough, they can also benefit from blitzing firepower. So these guys have a lot of movement. So what you can do is you can move up, advance. So you move up 17 inches with the battle focus token, which gives you 3 inches. You advance, which gives you another d6. And then you can throw grenades. So you can throw 10 grenades, do some mortal wounds to a target. Then you blast them with blitzing firepower, and your lethal hits crit on 5s with Lhykhis. So your sustained hits are critting on 5s, your lethal hits are critting on 5s, and all of a sudden you're doing a ton of damage to basically anything that you hit. And it really is worth a lot more than 170 points when you work in this combination. So I know you have to also give up Lhykhis, but Lhykhis is probably going to be doing something similar during that turn. She's going to be move blocking something, taking an objective away, doing some sort of thing. And you can actually do a lot of work with a squad of Swooping Hawks and Lhykhis in tow. Next, we have 3 squads of Warp Spiders. One of them has the Power Blade array. That's going to be obviously Lhykhis' unit. And then we have the 2 units with the dual weapons, ranged weapons, the Spinneret Rifle and the Death Weavers. These are going to be mainly, just for move blocking, screening. They're going to be preventing your opponent from being able to move where they want to go. And, they're pretty good against, light infantry as well. And they can do some chip damage here and there. So I really love warp spiders. And I always usually, in a competitive style list, I like to run 2 or 3 units of them. 2 units if I'm not running Lhykhis, 3 units if I'm running Lhykhis. But I've also seen people not take Lhykhis and take 3 units. They're just a really, really good unit. Lastly, we do have the Wave Serpent. Of course, the Wave Serpent is going to have the Bright Lance and Shuriken Cannon. This is going to be for the Fire Dragons. But if the Fire Dragons can't get back in for whatever reason, or they need to stay somewhere for a particular goal, a secondary objective or something, which I don't think they would, but you can always throw your other units in that Wave Serpent as well. So you do have a squad of Howling Banshees. You do have a squad of Dark Reapers in this list. So if you want to switch around the transport a little bit, that's fine. I think Fire Dragons typically work best in this particular list, but you could also have the, Dark Reapers and Howling Banshees in there as well. Okay, so here's the list, and basically how it's going to work is we're going to be very aggressive with it early game. So the early stages of the game, we're going to be going in with things like Corsairs. We're going to be making sure that our opponent can't really move. We're going to be throwing Warp Spiders up in their face. Next turn, when they reveal some of their units, right? Like if we're going up against a knight player and they're revealing their, big knights to go on objectives and try to score and stuff like that, we're going to be taking them out. Now, if they're little knights, it's actually much easier to just play around these because units like Swooping Hawks have 24 inches. And as we previously said, with the little knights, we can just throw Lhykhis up there. She can actually probably, with her unit and a squad of Swooping Hawks, kill a baby knight in a turn, or maybe even multiple baby knights if we have more stuff in our list. Like the Fire Dragons can pop out, kill a baby knight at range, and then pop back in. We have Eldrad who can doom something. So we have a lot in this list that can deal with whatever our opponent throws at us, and we can really just mess up their day. We can do so much damage during turns, 2 and turns 3, that during turns 4 and 5, our opponent is no longer able to score, and we will just have the battlefield at that point. So, we could even play more aggressive with their Swooping Hawks if they reveal a bigger knight or if they just try to bum rush us. I think the best, honestly, I'm just going to say this, I think the best thing our opponent can do is honestly try to defend themselves and screen as much as possible, because if our opponent goes after us, is very aggressive, we have the tools in this army to kill 3 or 4 knights in a single turn of shooting. So we can easily kill 2 big knights between our Dark Reapers and Fire Dragons, of course with Lhykhis, because we're going to be throwing her in, getting the critical hits on one of the knights. And then all the other stuff in our army can easily deal with a second big knight. So that's already about 800 points worth of stuff. And then our other things can move block and prevent our opponent from really counterattacking with the other knights in their army. And I'd actually go so far as to say maybe we can even kill a baby knight on top of that, or a couple baby knights. So yeah, I think 2 big knights and possibly 2 little knights is maybe the extent of what we can kill with this list. But I wouldn't be surprised if we can have a really good go turn with, Howling Banshees, Jane's Arm. We could just really rip into these units and just absolutely obliterate them in a couple turns. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and hop on to Tabletop Simulator. I'm going to show you guys the capabilities of this list and how much damage it can truly do. And usually people think that, Aspect Host is going to be the one that can do the most damage. That is certainly the case. Aspect Host does do slightly more damage than Warhost, but Warhost allows us to get more movement in and possibly have more activations with our units. So over the course of a couple turns, we're going to end up doing a lot more with a Warhost list that has, increased number of activations than an Aspect Host list. But we're going to have a less hard-hitting go turn, if that makes sense. So anyway, we're going to dive right into it in just a second on Tabletop Simulator, and I'm going to show you guys this list in action. All right, everybody, welcome back to our Tabletop Simulator example for our Warhost list. So here is the list in its full glory, and as you can see, we are running 2 max squads of Aspect Warriors, both the Fire Dragons and the Swooping Hawks. We are also running a couple of units of Corsair Void Reavers. a Wave Serpent, Storm Guardians, Rangers, 2 squads of Howling Banshees with their respective characters, Janzar and an Autarch. We have Malgan Ra with a squad of Dark Reapers, Lhykhis with Warp Spiders, and 2 other squads of Warp Spiders to back them up. So this list is going to be very much a aggressive style of play. We're going to be doing a lot of screening, move blocking with it. We're also going to be basically zapping any Imperial Knights that walk into our crosshairs. But the cool thing about this list is we also have some pretty proactive things that we can do as soon as the Knights move on to no man's land. So as soon as they try to stage onto certain points, we're going to be able to move into a position to crush them. So even if our Knight player is trying to play more conservative and trying to screen, we will have options for that as well. So we have set up the army on train layout 5. I've been doing this train layout because I feel like it is difficult for some players to actually deploy on, but you will be happy to know that if you deploy in the way that I have now, there's really no way your opponent can get line of sight on a majority of your units. I actually think the only possible thing they can get line of sight on is these Storm Guardians, and actually it's a big trap for your opponent to go after this unit because we can just simply lightning fast reactions. If Storm Guardians die, we don't really care too much, unfortunately. Sorry, Storm Guardians. But the prize for our opponent getting to the point where they can shoot this unit is going to be a big Knight, right? So if they get to the point where they're shooting a big Knight at the squad and they pretty much wipe it out, that Knight is going to be toast the next turn. So we've set up for that, right? And as you can see here, this spot right here is the perfect spot where they can draw line of sight. Turn 1, right? Big Knight moves up 10 inches, fires onto the Storm Guardian squad. Oh, you can see my Storm Guardian squad. Now, an experienced player won't fall for this trap because we have Fire Dragons over here in this Wave Serpent. They could easily pick it up and then get back in the Wave Serpent for free, essentially. But a novice Knight player or even, a medium skill Knight player might see something like this and might go for it, right? So do be aware of mistakes your opponent's making and react accordingly. Okay, so we've kind of set up here. We have Lhykhis and 5 Corsair Void Reavers behind this ruin wall. Again, our opponent can't draw line of sight to any of them. I've already marked out the line of sight lanes, so they're very safe. We have our Wave Serpent here. We have Janzar and her Howling Banshees behind here, Eldar and Storm Guardians, of course, Warp Spiders, Dark Reapers. I don't know why the Swooping Hawks back here needs to be over here. Whoops. All right, we have 10 Swooping Hawks. He decided to hang out with the Dark Reapers. Other Swooping Hawks are too boring for his tastes. So we have 5 more Corsair Void Reavers here, squad of Howling Banshees with Autarch, and that's it. Now, there is a couple of threats we need to be aware of if our opponent gets the first turn. The first one is the Warglaive move through a wall stratagem assault. So, being able to do something like this with a Armiger Warglaive and just move right through a wall. Or if they deploy right here, right? I'm not 100% sure that the Armiger Warglaives can actually do that, but I think the big ones definitely can. So what you have to kind of watch out for is if there's an Armiger right here, they can move 12 inches, right? They can toe the line here. They can't shoot because remember, they're not Titanic or towering. So they're not going to be able to just shoot through this if their base isn't fully within. That's an important thing to remember against Knights, that the baby Knights are not towering. But they will be able to charge. And what a baby Knight can do when it charges in is it can tank shock. So, they go in, they tank shock, they do some mortals, then, you attack them, you're probably not going to kill them, and then they do a bunch of damage. Now, here's the good news. It's not this way with Chaos Knights, because Chaos Knights have different ways to basically manipulate their, they can cause battle shock, and they can do different things like that. So they can hit a little bit harder as well with some of their light knights, their war dogs. But Imperial Knights, they don't really have like a super solid combat option for their babies. The baby Knights are just not that good in combat. So actually a squad of Howling Banshees under the effects of lightning fast reactions can survive with the Exarch and maybe a Banshee on average dice against the Light Knight's assault, including tank shock, right? So you can actually survive that attack. I know it sounds far-fetched, but you can. And you can dish back some serious damage. So yeah, so you do have to watch out for those things, but typically speaking, a good opponent will not do that. Again, they're spending about 140 points to kill something that's worth about 90 points. So, not a good move for our knight player to do on turn 1. So, in essence, we're pretty safe for the most part. We're pretty safe on the board. So if we go first, we can obviously get into a better position to do more stuff. But if we go second, we can definitely, capitalize that on that as well, because our opponent's not really going to have anything to do also. That's very important. So basically, this is how we're set up. Our opponent's set up like this. And again, this might not be the, best way to deploy knights, but I think it's one of the only ways to hide everything turn 1. So I think this is going to be a common deployment on this type of board. You're going to have 3 big knights, which I feel like is pretty standard, and you're going to have 5 baby knights, which again, really annoying, or 6 baby knights, excuse me. So again, really annoying that they can field so many knights in their army, but it is what it is. They can't hide everything 100%, so we're going to be able to kill something, whether they like it or not. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start the game, and I'll go ahead and kind of go through my choices. Oh, and one more thing, Rangers here. Just basically screening out, doing a little bit of screening, objective play, and stuff like that. This is probably just the best place to put them for the most part. And then if we get first turn, we can obviously use them to move block and prevent our opponent from getting line of sight lanes. So one of the most important things about knights that I think people have to realize is you can't move block the big knights, but you can move block the small knights. And the small knights, even though they can't move block the big knights, they're a base. So the big knights can't land on top of their base size, right? So if you clog something, like for example, this knight, we know that it moves 10 inches, right? So they can move about here, which makes perfect sense. Now they could obviously advance, but they don't really need to, and they want to be in the terrain so they can get some cover, because their 3+ save is not really that good. So they're going to be here, right? So we can actually block them from being able to do this by simply putting the Rangers in a position around this objective to where the knight can't move onto it, turn 1. Now, the Rangers will die. The opponent will be able to get on the objective anyway by charging in, but if they do that, they're going to be exposed. And again, that leads us to our Fire Dragon squad that's just waiting here, just hungry for enemy knights, right? So our opponent's really going to not have a good time on this side of the battlefield. In fact, their expansion objective here is going to be in danger of being captured very easily by us. And there's not going to be a lot that they can do about it because of the placement of this huge Fire Dragon unit, which is going to be just repeatedly, destroying knights left and right. On the other side of the battlefield, we have a position here that they can't really easily access either, because again, there's a wall right here. Yes, they can move through walls, but we have units here that can block them from being able to move through the wall. So they'll be on the opposite side of the wall. They'll try to charge in. They'll have to go around. And then we have swooping hawks waiting for them. We have dark reapers right here that can kind of come in and also do some damage. And, even a big knight like this is going to eventually die just to the amount of firepower that we're putting into it. And also, just like I discussed in the video, we have stuff like Eldrad who can doom. I could just walk outside this ruin wall right here, doom something right here, and then just be good to go, right? Like doom on a target like that when you have things that are already wounding on 5s, like the Autarch's wounding on 5s, the Banshee Exarch's wounding on 5s, now you're going to be wounding on 4s, is big. And we can always throw, again, Swooping Hawks as well, right? Swooping Hawks wound on 6s, but they have lethal hits. We're also going to put sustained hits on them with the blitzing firepower. We can definitely do a lot of damage to knight enemies because all they're going to get is a 3+ save. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the game, see how this goes. We'll do some rolls. We'll see who goes first or second. Again, doesn't really matter, but we'll go ahead and go for it. I don't know why that's there, but there we go. All right, let's roll to see who gets first turn. I don't know who's going to get first turn, but we'll find out. So doesn't matter who. I roll. I get a 4. Our opponent rolls. They get a 1. All right, so it looks like we're going first. So, again, this could change, but I don't think it really matters that much in the grand scheme of things. So let's just flip it back over to us, actually. Can we? You know what? I'm not going to worry about this. No big deal. I think it's because I don't have another player seated, so it's not going to let me change the turn. But let's see what we draw for secondaries. Hopefully we can still do this. There we go. All right. We get a tempting target, which is super easy to score on turn one. It's basically a give me. And basically we set up our army to do this anyway, if you kind of look at where we're positioned. And we have engage on all fronts. Now, engage on all fronts is something we're not going to really realistically be able to score turn one. Now, let me show you why. We're not going to score big on it, right? It's only going to be 2 points. So basically what's going to happen here is we're going to need to get in 3 table quarters. Now, we could do it. Don't get me wrong. We could do it with Rangers, right? Rangers can move up. But we kind of want to move block here, so we kind of can do that a little bit. We can make sure that we're move blocked and in this table quarter. We're in the other 3, so we're going to get 2 points for this. And I suppose it depends on the tempting target our opponent has for us. I would reckon that our opponent would choose the middle objective because it's the hardest to get to. Now, if our opponent chooses the middle, there's no way we can score max points on our secondary, right? I mean, we could do warp spiders. We could throw warp spiders in there for 2 extra points. We might do that. So, you know what I'm going to say for this first turn? I'm going to say, you know what? Let's keep it for now. We'll use the warp spiders to move block, and we'll score 4 on this. Just because if we spend a CP to get rid of it, we could get something worse, right? We could get something like assassination where we're not scoring anything. So we'll keep it for now. Usually it's something I toss, but in this scenario against knights specifically, I think it's fine. Okay, so here's what we're going to do turn one. We're going to simply do what I said with the Rangers. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to keep the table quarters up just so everyone can see. We're going to move these guys. Now, again, knights typically cannot overwatch. If they do have something that allows them to overwatch or whatever and they want to use it, I'm just going to talk to them about that and be like, hey, you know, can this thing overwatch? And if my opponent says yes, it can overwatch, then I'm obviously going to use no overwatch on these guys. But typically these guys can just advance. So we're going to do an advance roll real quick. We get a 6, so we don't even care about that. Let's just say that, you know, whatever. They move just the regular distance. Again, depends if my opponent wants to overwatch or not, but doesn't really matter. So move over here. We're going to move block like so. And again, we're going to try to remain off the objective so that our opponent can't actually just, you know, be able to just move past us, right? Yeah, so we're just going to be barely off the objective. And again, we're going to explain this intent to our opponent. Boom. Boom. Now, this means that this Knight Castellan, with its current movement, cannot move anywhere. Right? It can't move over here because it's too far unless it gets a really good advance roll, like a 6-inch advance. And even then, it's going to be a little tough because it has to pay for a pivot because it's on an oval base. And over here, can't really move its max distance, right? If it moves 10 inches, it can't fit. So it can't move straight. Can't move over here. Can't move over here. The only place it can really move is over here if it like tilts its base. But we can, you know, obviously threaten it if it does this, right? So most likely it's just going to move up a little bit, shoot the Rangers. We're going to do a reactive move. We're going to reactive move back and then, or forward, just so that our opponent can't go on the objective, and we're just going to stop them from doing anything, right? So there are Rangers right there. Perfect kind of position for them. We might even move them because we rolled a super good advance roll. We might even move them a little tiny bit farther here just to kind of make sure that our opponent can't get to us. There we go. All right, that's our Rangers. Let's go ahead. We're going to keep these Corsairs here because, again, we don't want to just give free kills to our opponent. If our opponent's smart, they can just move, toe the objective, kill the Rangers, kill the Corsairs, and then we just wasted 2 units for nothing. We are going to kind of slightly move up this Wave Serpent. Again, our opponent can't really see us. Remember how I said that they're not going to be able to realistically shoot at this Wave Serpent? they're just not going to be able to get the distance because the only other line of sight lane, if we move up into this terrain, is over here. And we got first turn, which means we can move block, which we're going to do. So this Warp Spider squad is going to use its Warp Jump, turn 1, to protect our Wave Serpent a little bit. We're going to go our 24 inches. Again, you could even go 27 inches, but I don't think we need it. Let's see if we need it. 24 is right here. We're on the objective, so, you know, yeah, I'll say that we actually do probably need to use the extra inch, so we're going to just use the extra 3 inches. We're going to spread out. We're going to put one Warp Spider there. We're going to put one Warp Spider here. Boom. 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 We might even do something like this, right? Just like that. We could probably even shoot this guy with one of the Warp Spiders if we wanted to, just for a little bit of chip damage, but whatever. Doesn't really matter too much here because our Knights now cannot go through us, right? We can move 12 inches here, but we can't really fit our base size on top of a structure like this, so that's a no-go. We can't move into this area to get on the objective like we could before because our spiders are blocking us. This just doesn't have the movement to do it because it's only moved 10. So again, it really can't fit its base in here. The armigers can go around, like for example, an armiger can go 6 inches this way and 6 inches this way, but that doesn't bring it onto the objective. You'd have to, basically what you'd have to do with this is you'd have to charge the warp spiders and then land on the objective, which is possible. So again, I mean, if you're afraid of that, that's just, unfortunately, that's just par for the course. They're going to get on the objective one way or another. Now, what do we do to stop that? Because we have our objective here. There's a couple things we can do. One, we can put Corsairs there. But the problem with putting Corsairs here is that they'll just die, right? Like, our opponent's just going to shoot them off the objective. So there's no real point in doing that. And I would actually argue that on this, unfortunately, there's just not a lot of ways to completely move block our opponent from charging these guys and then consolidating onto an objective. There's just not a ton of ways to do that. Even with that extra 3-inch move, right? Like, even if we moved the Warp Spiders a little bit farther up, with a good charge roll, something like an Armiger Warglaive can charge around and get on the objective, right? Now, that is going to deny us a couple points, 5 points for primary usually, depending on what the mission is. But what it is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to safely move our units up into position so that we can kill the Armiger Warglaive and we can possibly kill this other knight here. And we're going to be doing the same thing to our opponent on the other side on their expansion objective. So, I'm fine with that, using the Warp Spiders in that way. Let's just go ahead, before we forget, let's roll their 5 dice here for the deal. They're all good. Usually that's at the end of the movement phase, but that's okay. And now we're going to score max points on... sorry. I keep forgetting the name of that objective. It's Engage, that's right. We're going to spend max points on Engage here. So we're going to get the full points for that. That's over there. There we go. All right. Now, remember, we're also going to have a knight, a baby knight on this objective. So we're just going to shuffle this squad of Dark Reapers a little bit over. Boom. Warp Spiders are fine there. We're going to move our Malgan Raw just right here in the corner so it doesn't get popped. Again, all of this is fine turn 1. We're going to leave everything where it is. Not a lot to do during turn 1. We're going to move up these Corsairs right here. We're going to just move them up behind the wall, and that's it. Oh. Now, if your opponent does select the tempting target from the middle, this is a very easy move for the Corsairs. We're just going to advance up there and use the 3-inch movement to get up there. So we're going to use plus 3 inches. So we've used 2 battle focus tokens. We have 5 or 3 left because we have an extra one in Warhost. Let's see what our advance roll does for us. We get a 2, so that's going to be 5 extra inches. We're going to be moving 12. Is this enough to get to the center objective? Unfortunately, it's not. So that's a little bit unfortunate. What I would... Oh, you know what we forgot to do? Stupid me. we forgot to do our scout move. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Sorry, guys. This is just a quick version. I'm not actually playing through the turns correctly, but here we go. We scout up here, which is what we're going to do anyway. And then we're going to, from here, move 12 inches, and we're going to get that objective. Boom. All right, there we go. All right, so that's our turn right there. With that, that's going to score us big points. The Howling Banshee unit is just going to move right here. And again, like I said, if something wants to charge us, that's okay, but they can't really do it anymore because we've move blocked them. We've essentially prevented them from doing that. So I'm cool just leaving, like, for example, a Howling Banshee maybe like right here just to tow the objective. Just in case they don't go for the charge, we have something that's capturing that objective, and then we just put the rest of the Howling Banshees here behind. So we're hiding behind this wall right here. Our opponent cannot see us. Our opponent can't realistically charge into us without wasting their model. So we're good right here. We're just going to go ahead and tow the objective and just be a little bit back from the wall so our opponent can't engage us through the wall. And again, we're going to call it a day right there. Want to make sure, yeah, I'm towing the objective. See how my base is touching the objective marker. Boom. Perfect. Okay. That's all you need to do right there. And honestly, it's going to be almost impossible for them to get a big charge off on your Howling Banshees anyway. So there you go. All right, Swooping Hawks. We're just going to move them into a position like this. We don't really need to. Like, they're fine right here if you want to just keep them here. But I like them to be a little bit closer so that I can actually do something in the following turn. I can move block with them and do a bunch of damage. Again, we're just setting up for a big go turn on turn 2. So our main objective here is to just prevent our opponent from scoring stuff and prevent them from moving too far out, but giving them a little bit of leeway so that they can hang themselves. All right, so we have something like this. Again, I'm not going to fuss too much about these angles here, but in the game, you will have to actually make sure that your opponent cannot see you, because if they can see you, you are dead. So, you know, if your opponent gets out here with this big knight, for example, moves like, you know, let's say it moves like 10 inches right here, they can get to about here, still shoot. Can they see the Swooping Hawks? No, they can't. So we're safe. Thumbs up. All right. Everything else I'm pretty good with because I know that they can't move into this angle to get, you know, shots off of my Wave Serpent. At most, the Armiger can move over here, but does the Armiger have the 48-inch range? No, it does not. So if it even moves right here, guys, just barely outside of the Warp Spider, it's not going to be able to look at this. This is 52, 53 inches. It's not going to be able to actually shoot the Wave Serpent. So it's safe. Even though there's an angle here, the Armiger the Helverin just doesn't have the range to threaten you. Right? Even if we could even move the Warp Spider a little bit if we wanted to on the side, but no big deal. Okay, so this is our turn 1. And basically, we're going to fire a couple pistols off with the Rangers, no big deal, real quick. These guys can't really do anything anyway, so they're just going to score the objective. Howling Banshees, not going to really do much. So we're just going to sit here, and on our turn 1, we're going to score pretty much max on our on secondary, right? We're going to get 4 points on engage. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to get 5 on tempting target. Boom. Okay. So now it flips over to their turn. They draw their secondaries. They get area denial, which is actually not good for them, because it means they have to put something in the middle of the battlefield, and they don't automatically get it because we have Corsairs there, and they have Display of Might, which they may be able to score, but if we just take a look here at the deployment zones, right, they need to kill these 3 units. We have 1 unit Howling Banshees here, so this is a really easy score for them, I think, honestly. So they're going to get both of these probably, which is totally fine, but it does mean that they're going to have to engage. They're going to have to move models to the middle of the battlefield. So they're going to score 9 points, just like us, but they're going to have to at least move 2 units into the midboard. And, you know, they're going to get popped, right? Essentially. So, their turn. We're just going to run through this because I'm not too familiar with the weapons on the big knights. I know the weapons on the small knights are pretty much meaningless anyway, but essentially this is probably what they're going to do, something like this. They're going to have to score their objectives, so they're going to have to go for these guys. What I would do is I would just simply do this. This Armiger Helverin, I would move 12 inches right here. Might even move it a little bit like this, because you need to kill the Corsairs. And unfortunately for them, I actually don't think they're going to score, because it doesn't look like they have the charge distances. This guy's behind here, so he's going to have to go around, and it's a long bomb charge to get here, and I could even be even sneakier about it and just barely tow the objective here, but I'm not going to do that. So this Helverin or Warglaive or whatever, let's just say, kind of moves out this way and then moves forward, advances to get to this position right here, right? They're wanting to stage. This model maybe tries to stage up right here. That's a little too far. Let's say 10 inches right here. And you can see how slow the Imperial Knights are. I mean, even if they advance roll like 3 inches, it's still like right here. They're extremely slow models, and you can take advantage of that as an Eldar player. So they're oversaturating the side of the battlefield, because basically what they've seen here is they've seen that you have fire dragons here, and they're just not going to want to mess with you. But again, we're going to turn this on its head in a couple turns. Okay, so they have this set up. They're going to move a Helverin definitely right here. It just makes sense to move something right here. They're going to try to get out of, dodge as quickly as possible so that they can actually start moving their models. One model moves right here. Again, they could just move over these obstacles, no problem. We're going to move a Helverin right here, or I keep messing up their names, a Warglaive. And we got the Heavy Knight. Honestly, doesn't have very much room to maneuver, honestly, but probably just keep it there. I know that sounds like really weird, but probably just keep it there. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we move something back on this objective. I can't really remember, but yeah, we just keep something here. They could easily keep the big knight on the objective, but it doesn't really matter. Cool thing is we have some warp spiders here that we can move up and steal the objective later in the game if we want to. But they're going to do something like this, for the most part. This Warglaive might come up here, which will proc. If the Warglaive moves first, which it kind of has to, then we can use our Rangers and we could just, mess with our opponent. But most likely, they're going to be able to get on the objective. So let's just see what we roll with the Rangers. We might get lucky. No, we don't get lucky. That's okay. So we just move 1 inch. So just something like this. 1 inch. 1 inch. Whoops. There we go. So if they want to charge me and get on the objective, totally fine with that. I would actually move farther back. We know that they don't have any, storm hostile objective or anything like that. So we're fine just doing this, right? Because their secondaries are area denial and display of might. So again, we don't really care about moving back onto the objective because they're not going to be able to they're going to get it anyway. Knight Castellan moves up. I would actually probably play it safe with the Knight Castellan and just move it here if I was the opponent and just charge with the Warglaive. But it's going to be a little tricky because the Armiger Warglaive, if it shoots these guys, they could possibly move back. So this is a tricky position for your opponent. So let's go into the shooting phase, and I'm going to show you why it's tricky for your opponent in this situation. So the Warglaive has 2 weapons. It has a multi-melta or a meltagun on top of it, and it has this big melta lance. Now, the problem with shooting this first is that there is no way that this model can actually kill 5 Rangers, right? In shooting. Obviously, in combat, it can wipe them out, but in shooting, can't do it. So your opponent has a really weird choice. Either it doesn't shoot these guys at all and just charges in, in which case, if it gets unlucky enough, you can actually, you know, out OC it, which is pretty freaking hilarious. So your opponent might actually just throw the game right here, or it could just shoot these guys off but not get the objective, right? So your opponent doesn't have any good moves. If your opponent like whittles you down, like kills like 2 or 3 models, you can always just fade back. And remember, we're Warhost, so we get D6+2 on our fade back battle maneuver. So your opponent is in a really bad spot here. We kind of put them in a bad spot, guys. So Ranger Tactics 101, how to mess with your opponent, this is how. Put them in positions like this where they have no real good choices. Tank Shock is their only option, right? Tank Shock is their only option. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to not shoot the Rangers, and they're going to Tank Shock, which is, again, we're making them waste CP. So their turn, they're going to waste CP on Tank Shock. They're not going to shoot the Rangers. They're going to go ahead and engage the Rangers like this, as close as they possibly can. Again, we rolled a 1, unfortunately. That's just bum luck on our part. But they're going to roll their 9 dice for the Armiger Warglaive. Oh, I guess I should have mentioned, these guys are toast, right? The Warp Spiders are gone. Everything shoots them, they're dead. This Armiger Warglaive is probably going to shoot the Corsairs dead, but what I'm going to do in response is I'm going to do a simple lightning fast reactions and hopefully survive. An Armiger Warglaive, on average dice, will not kill every single Corsair. So just to give you guys, like, and again, let me go ahead and reread the rules real quick on the Armiger Warglaive, but I'm pretty sure it's like anti-fly. And it has good weapons, but it's not good enough to really hard counter the Corsairs. So it might kill them, but I don't think it's going to kill all of them. Let me just check. Just to make sure, because I don't want to say something, you know, that's stupid. So it has 2 Armiger autocannons, so that's going to be 8 attacks. And it also carries the Questoris Heavy Stubber. So it might actually kill, but we'll see. I'm going to bet good money that we can actually survive this. Because even though they're high strength, they're only hitting on 3s, and it's only AP -1. So I'm going to go ahead and pop lightning fast reactions, so my opponent hits on 4s. So they don't get any rerolls or anything like that. They can pop a strat. But again, remember they had to Tank Shock. So they're going to be out of CP if they do this. So that means no, you know, if they want to rotate their ion shields, they're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to protect their knights as easily. So they go ahead and roll their dice. Armiger autocannons. Hitting on 4s. Okay, most of them miss, which is what we wanted. And then they're going to wound on 2s, of course. We got a little bit lucky there, but that happens often. And then we roll our 5+ saves. We don't make any of them. So 2 die here. So we're going to kill 2. And again, all we need is 1 model to survive on the objective. The Felarch, probably should have switched them around, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. So now their Heavy Stubber's going to fire. Are they within 18 inches? Definitely, right? If we measure this, they're going to be in rapid fire range. Yep. So they're going to go ahead and rapid fire us with the 6 shots. Again, they're hitting on 4s. Questoris Heavy Stubber is like better than a normal Heavy Stubber, but it's not that good. So they're doing a pretty good job with this Heavy Stubber, wounding on 3s. Okay. So now all we have to do is make one of these saves and we survive. Let's see if we can do it, guys. Can we do it? Well, we do make one of them because the Felarch has a 4-up invul. But unfortunately, the other 2 are going to pass away. So once this happens, right, we can move on to the objective and capture it with fade back. Again, is that going to be 100% going to happen? No, right? It's a dice game. Your opponent could get really lucky, even if you use lightning fast reactions. They could just kill you anyway. But this gives us the best chance of being able to score primary. Because at this point in the game, guys... Oh, by the way, this... I forgot to mention. One of these Armigers would have charged the Warp Spiders and would have ended up on the objective. We're just going to put it like right here, right? Because it's gonna charge into them, move 3 inches, right? So they're gonna definitely get this. But this possibly gives us 10 points on primary where we would have only scored 5 before, right? So I think this is a good move. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think we try to go for this so that we can maybe squeak out 5 more points. Again, it's a dice game, so your opponent could roll really well, you could roll really well. It's up in the air. But I think on average dice, the Armiger Helverin doesn't actually kill all 5 models here. All right. So what's next? Well, they're going to tank shock. Oh yeah, we're going to do the tank shock, right? We forgot to do the tank shock. 9 dice, needing 5+. That's a very bad tank shock. Not looking good. Not looking good for our opponent. So we're just going to take this guy out. Whatever, right? Now we can pile in. Doesn't really matter, right? Go ahead and, pile in our 3 inches. We're still on the objective. All right, now they get their attacks. This thing gets 8 attacks. It's hitting pretty well. It has sustained hits, so it's probably going to kill us, but let's just find out. 8 attacks. Let's see. We could also, ironically, we could use, a CP for lightning fast again. I don't know if it's worth it, but we could, right? Like, we could do it. It's only AP -1 attacks on this guy, but he has sustained hits. So it's up to you guys whether you think that's a good idea or not. Personally, I think it depends on the tank shock. If the tank shock is really bad, like it was then, we could go for lightning fast in the fight phase. But if the tank shock is good, don't go for lightning fast. So let's assume that we just don't go for it, because let's assume the tank shock's actually good, okay? Yeah, and they would have hit really well anyway. So 2 miss here, because it hits on 3s, so we got 2 sustained, wounding on 2+, all of them wound. Your rangers are probably dead. Yeah, they're dead, right? So good thing we didn't use lightning fast. So rangers gone. But they did their job. So this guy now consolidates 3 inches onto the objective. Boom, right? Okay. All right, so that's the knight's turn, right? And what did they score? Well, they didn't score area denial because they don't have models. I don't think they have models within range, right? 1 or more units from your army. They have to be within the center objective and no enemies within the center. So they didn't score that. They can keep it, but I doubt they're going to keep it, honestly, because it's a bad objective for them. They don't want to just sit in the center. And they did get display of might, so they're going to score 4. So they ended up scoring 4 points on secondary here. Great. Okay. Our turn. 2 new objectives. Area denial. Well, we've already scored it because we have a model there already. So we're good. Thumbs up. We're going to use a command, not a command, sorry. We're going to use Insane Bravery on our model to make sure it passes its battle shock. And we have Secure No Man's Land. Easy. So we get another 10 points from this at the end of the turn, right? Easy points. But here's really where it comes into play, right? Because we have a Wave Serpent propped up here. We can put out Fire Dragons, and I'm just going to show you guys real quick how we can just move these Fire Dragons into position. So we're going to go for this kill, and we're going to do some pre-measuring. Now, we can move from this tip of the Wave Serpent 3 inches out to disembark. So we're going to disembark over here. Boom. We're going to use our, again, they can't overwatch us as far as we know. So we're going to use our +3 inch movement added to our normal move of 7. So we're going to go 10 inches. We're going to be right here. And then we're going to go for an advance roll, which, by the way, you can re-roll if you need to. So we're going to be here, and then we're going to advance, right? So we're going to be able to realistically get into a really good position to kill this knight. That's the idea anyway. Now, we don't have to do that, right? If we really can't do it, then we can't do it, right? We have to wait a turn. But the other alternative is we try to move the Wave Serpent past this. Truthfully, though, the Wave Serpent can't fit. right? So that's not going to work out. So we could try to move to kill this guy. Personally, what I think you should do instead is just do this. It's a very simple move. I've talked about it when I talked about the Corsair video. Just move these guys right here. Move these guys 10 inches up. Boom. Now, we don't really want to charge because then they can heroically intervene, right? So that's not a good plan. But we can sit here, we can throw a grenade, we can shoot, and we could just take the objective from them, right? That's to me, that's the perfect thing to do. And we could just move up our warp spiders, you know, kind of in this position right here. Boom. 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 We can move them a little bit closer, inch them a little bit closer here. And we can, again, we can inch our wave serpent just a little bit closer to where it needs to be, so that we can get out and really do some heavy damage with this thing. But again, this is turn 2, so our opponent really didn't move that far. Our opponent's playing kind of cautious on, you know, deliberately, but playing cautious well. But we're winning the game, right? Our opponent is not putting enough pressure on us on the battlefield, and the reason why they're not doing that is because we have set up the battlefield in such a way that if they do put pressure on us, we can just kill them instantly too, right? Okay. So, yeah, insane bravery on this guy. We're going to actually score 10 points for our primary. So, let's give ourselves 10 points and a pat on the back. Just kidding. And we're just going to go for what we normally do. We already have secure no man's land here. We're going to keep this guy still. We're not going to move him at all. Howling Banshees are totally fine just sitting here because this thing is dead. And I'll show you why in a second. We're going to move... Yeah, I don't even think we need to really move Malgan Raw anywhere. We forgot to shoot the Tempest Launcher last turn, but it's not, again, not a huge deal. You know, in the grand scheme of things, would you have shot the Tempest Launcher? Absolutely. You would have shot it and perhaps done some mortal wounds to some of the stuff over here, but it's not a huge deal to do. We don't have to worry about that too much. So here's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to propose a very simple move with Eldrad. We're just going to move Eldrad right out here. Very simple maneuver. And that's so that he can doom this model right here. We're going to go ahead and, that's a little too far, so we're going to move him a little bit farther out. Again, it's fine if he's like right here. We just move a Storm Guardian, you know, right here to make sure we're all within the 2 inches. Let's see if we can get Doom now. We're barely out. We're going to have to move a little bit farther, like kind of like an extra inch forward. So we might have to move a Storm Guardian out here as well, but that's fine, right? God. All right, Eldrad, come on, buddy. Come on, boy. All right. There we go. Here we go. There we go. Boom. All right, so we got Doom off, and now we're just going to go absolutely ham on this model. So how are we going to do that? Well, very simple. We're going to move our Swooping Hawks as so, right? We're going to move them like this. We're going to make sure we have line of sight on all these guys. I think we have to move these guys a little bit farther up here. Again, the one thing about the Swooping Hawks, their base sizes are really kind of obnoxious. But, we could either do this, or I think, you know what? Here, you know what the better move is, guys? We just don't mess around with this. The Swooping Hawks are probably going to be killed anyway next turn. So we're just going to go full on balls to the wall. We're going to move them into the lion's den here. Now, I know this may seem like a crazy maneuver, but against knights, it's actually not. Because basically what we can do is, again, we're just preventing our opponent from being able to do anything that they want to do. So we're going to move like this. We have the movement. We can use a battle focus token, right? It's our turn again, so we can definitely do that. We're just going to say, we're not going to let you do anything this game. Right? Like, we're not going to let you actually move where you want to move. This is a very common tactic that people use Swooping Hawks for. So we're going to do that. We're not going to play it, back in the corner. The Swooping Hawks will die regardless, so there's not much of a chance of saving them. And we're going to do some big damage with this. Now, the other thing we're going to do is when the Swooping Hawks are here, our opponent really is not in a good spot to counterattack anything back here. So we're going to use this to our advantage. We're going to move Malgan Ra up. And again, Malgan Ra can also shoot into the Armiger Warglaive right here. And we're going to move up a couple Dark Reapers right behind him so they can shoot him as well. Whoops. Let's get down here into the nitty gritty here. Malgan Ra. Move the Storm Guardian up a little bit. We're all going to get big old Dark Reaper party in here. We can always fire and fade with the Dark Reapers, right? That's a really good strat to use the Dark Reapers. Now, the only model that doesn't really need line of sight is the Tempest Launcher because it can fire indirectly. So maybe we do something like this, right? Maybe we do something like this over here. Boom. Yeah, let's just move the Tempest Launcher right here, and then let's move this guy. Put him like right here. Try to get him in there. There we go. I knew they could all fit. All right. This guy is not fully within the terrain, but his base has line of sight to this that's out in the open. So, again, we can see it. Don't worry. It will get cover, probably, but we ignore cover with Dark Reapers anyway, right? Alrighty, so what do the Howling Banshees do? Well, there's a couple things we can do with the Howling Banshees. Personally, I don't think much of them are a good idea because they could just heroically intervene perhaps over here and do something to us. I would rather just clog these guys up here so that they can't get to the objective. And I would rather just leave my Howling Banshees here and just chill, right? Because they don't have to do anything. Our opponent is not putting pressure on them, so they can't really do much. Remember what I said before as well. This guy cannot just, he can move over models, but again, we're too far away from the wall. We're over an inch away from the wall, right? So if we go from the outside of the wall to our Banshees, they should just be out of range. And again, if they're not, it's something you can talk to your opponent about and be like, hey, I meant to have them an inch away so that you couldn't actually fight through it. Most opponents will be like, all right, that makes sense. So the only thing this guy can do possibly, again, is walk over this way and charge into the back of these guys, which, again, he can do that, but we can also just kind of not care because there's something we can do with the Swooping Hawks to stop that, right? We can just do this. So again, it's like, yeah, your opponent can do that, but are they going to do that with a 400 plus point unit killing this and then dying in return? Probably not. So we're just going to let it happen. We're going to see, right? So this is what we're going to do with the Swooping Hawks. Howling Banshees are right here. Dark Reapers are right here. Warp Spiders are fine. If the Warp Spiders wanted to, let's see, 27 inches, could they steal the objective away from our opponent? No. All right, they're too far, so no big deal. We're going to just save them for the late game. I think that's the best way to do it. Steal the objective from our opponent later on. These Banshees are going to stay right here because we need a counterattack. Again, if our big knight comes over here, we'll need it to, counterattack over there. And we have everything we need set up beautifully, right? And our opponent is still not able to score primary. They're only scoring 5 points on primary. I know technically they scored in their turn, but just so I don't forget, I'm going to give them 5 points right now, right? We'll see what they get later on. Okay, so our turn 2 here. We go and start shooting. So these swooping hawks, what I'm going to do first is do their grenade. Now, you might think the grenade's preemptive, but actually I'm not really confident that Maugan and 5 Dark Reapers can take an Arbinger Warglaive out. So we're going to throw the grenades at this Armiger Warglaive, right? Because we just need to kill it. So we're going to throw our 10 grenades. 4 pluses. We get more than 6, so we're just going to do 6. It's going to take 6 wounds. It has 6 wounds or 8 wounds left, I think, because they have 14 wounds. So we'll just count it right here. Right, they have 6 wounds on it. And we'll count this for other stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and shoot. Our shooting phase is going to start with Maugan Raw and the Reapers. We're going to try to kill this Armiger Warglaive. It only has 8 wounds left. Should be within range of Maugan Raw. It has Doom on it because of Eldrad, so we're going to go ahead and roll our 6 dice with Maugan Raw, hitting on 2s. Really bad roll to hit, but that's okay. We're going to wound on, instead of wounding on 5s, we're going to wound on 4s because of Doom. Okay, horrible roll with Maugan Raw. Sorry, Maugan, but we're going to change a Dark Reaper thing to a 6 here using a token, and we're going to go ahead and do 2 more wounds to it. And it's going to take 1 save at, I think it's -2 AP, I believe, on his gun. So let's see if it makes it. Nope, he fails anyway. Failed even if it was AP1, which I think it's AP2, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. He's going to go ahead and take 2 more damage. All right, so he only has 4 wounds left. Let's go and just finish him with the Dark Reapers. We have 4 more shots from them. Again, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. Taking 2 more saves of 5+. Misses them. They're dead. So on average dice, this Armiger Warglaive should die to a Swooping Hawk Grenade and Dark Reapers. Boom. Gone. So that's dead. We don't have to worry about that. Now, I guess it could explode, right? I guess that's a possibility. Oh, yikes. So it does explode. How much damage? Well, that's not going to be good. Obviously, that's terrible for the Swooping Hawks here. That shouldn't happen, but it happened. So let's just take a few Swooping Hawks out. I think we can live with just taking 2 Swooping Hawks here and putting a wound on the Exarch. That's a shame. Okay. That's fine. We take those. You know, we take those L's right there. So, Swooping Hawks are going to shoot. Now, because we're reduced at this point, we should have... God, I'm such a fool. Oh, well. Okay, this is a learning experience. There is a chance it blows up. So, don't shoot the Dark Reapers first. Shoot the Swooping Hawks first at something, right? Let's assume we did that in the opposite direction, right? Because I don't want to redo that. So we're just going to assume we shot. Lesson learned. These are the things I mess up on sometimes, and I'm sure like a lot of people mess up on those things. It's like, oh, we're going to kill this first, you know, and then they're like, oh, it can explode onto my Swooping Hawks. These are the small things that'll help you in games as well. So let's assume we shot the Dark Reapers after. We're shooting the Swooping Hawks first. We have a full unit here. Now, honestly, we don't have much of a threat coming from the Armigers. I know it seems like they're the best target for this, but they're not. The Big Knights are the better targets. So we are going to shoot at the Big Knight. Every single model here has line of sight to the Big Knight. We're going to shoot the Big Knight. We're going to activate as well. We're going to activate our Blitzing Firepower stratagem. So we're going to get sustained hits also. Now, we're not going to be critting on 5s because we don't have Lhykhis. What we could have done was move Lhykhis into a position to do it, right? But I decided I wanted to save Lhykhis for later. So if you move Lhykhis 27 inches over here, right, you can actually tag him with the lethal hit stuff. Personally, I think it was just a little too early in the game, but if you're playing a game against Knights and you really want to kill as many Knights as possible early on, totally fine. It's totally fine to do that. So, for now, though, we're just going to go ahead and do the Swooping Hawks normally. We're going to get 44 attacks out of them. The Exarch has an addition. So actually, sorry, we're going to do the Exarch separate. So that's, and it's not going to be 44. It's going to be 36 for the regular Hawks. So these are the regular Hawks. Remember, they have sustained hits and lethal hits. Okay, great. So we're going to miss these. And we're going to get lethal hits and sustained hits 6. Again, if we did lethal hits and sustained hits 5, we would have gotten a lot more, but that's okay. So we get our lethals. Now, we don't have Doom on this target because it was out of line of sight, but we are going to be still wounding on 6s. And we do get a lot more 6s. So 15 total saves. Pretty good for Swooping Hawks, right? And that's just not even counting the Exarch. Now, we got 15 saves here. Let's put these to the side real quick. And let's do the Exarch. We haven't even used our aspect tokens, which we're going to use pretty much right now. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That misses. We get a lethal and sustained hit. And we're rolling to wound. Again, we're going to need 6s because it's strength 5 and these guys are toughness 11. So we get 1, and we're going to use 2 aspect tokens to just boost these to 6s right away. So we're going to get 18 total. These are going to be at -1. These are going to be at 0. So let's do the Exarchs first at 4+. Okay. Our knight suffers 1 wound so far. And what about the other 15? 3+. 5 more wounds. So we did 6 wounds total to this thing. So now it only has 20 left. Pretty good, right? So we've basically almost killed a knight over here. We did 6 mortal wounds here, and we did a bunch of damage to this knight. We did 6 more damage to this knight. So those Swooping Hawks have pretty much made up their points cost, and they're going to be able to stop our opponent from being able to move further. And again, we could have done the Lhykhis thing, which would have given us more damage, but it also would have sacrificed Lhykhis. So I wasn't sure it was a good option. And then we have both squads dying instead of just one squad of Swooping Hawks dying. So anyway, all right, so what do we do next? Well, we do have these guys, right? And they can shoot at the Armiger Warglaive. So let's just shoot them real quick, see what they do. 3 shuriken pistols. They're going to reroll hits because of their ability. God bless them. All right. 6s. Nothing. And then let's do the blaster. The blaster's really good. Hits. Of course, when I say that, it doesn't do anything. And let's see the... Yeah, let's see what the other guy does, the Neurodisruptor. Probably nothing. Misses, reroll, hits, nothing. Okay. They did nothing. That's okay. They're just there to steal the objective. Alrighty. So, we're going to fire and fade with the Dark Reapers. We're going to get them, you know, kind of to safety here. Of course, 2 inches is really bad, but luckily there's nothing that can really hit us. So we're just going to kind of try to hide as best as possible here. It's not going to be really that possible to hide from everything, but there it is. Unfortunate roll, of course, with the D6, you know, mechanics. And that's it for our turn. So again, we don't want to charge because they'll just be able to heroically intervene. All right, so we got Area Denial, 5 points. Secure No Man's Land, 5 points. We got 10 points there. So we got 5, 5. Notice how we're winning the game without really doing much. We're not really doing much of anything. We're just preventing our opponent from moving where they want to move. And now it's really going to get bad for them because they're going to have to decide, do I go in and try to win the game here because I'm losing by so much, or do I just kind of give in and I just kind of keep playing the defensive game to save my models? All right, so they draw their secondaries. They get Overwhelming Force, okay, and they get Sabotage. Sabotage, again, is something they're going to have to use a unit for. Overwhelming Force, they're going to probably get the max points on that, but that's okay, right? So they're also going to, I gave them their 5 primary points, and they are behind by a significant amount because we've just outscored them significantly, right? We've scored so many more secondary points than them they're going to get a challenger card. So they draw their little challenger. Let's see. Self-preservation. One unit has to be 18 inches away from all enemy units. Okay. They'll get 3 points for that. No big deal. Or they can get a 6-inch pile-in and consolidation. Now this is interesting because they might use this to stop you from scoring an objective, right? So instead of scoring 3 points, they can actually deny you more points. So this is honestly what I would actually, if I was the knight player, I'd use the stratagem. I'd charge in with, you know, maybe a Helverin or something, but they can't shoot the hawks, right? They have to kill them in combat, but I'd charge in with this guy, and then once I'm in, I would consolidate 6 onto the objective and put 10 OC on the objective. That's what I would do in their shoes. So that's what they're probably going to do, right? Which is, again, they got lucky on a good draw, a challenger card. That's fine, because we still have our home objective and we're Eldar. So they're, as soon as they get to the objective, they're just going to get wiped, right? Alrighty, so let's go ahead and do their turn. This Armiger Warglaive, obviously going to charge these guys, probably do the same kind of thing, just tank shock, kill them, right? This Knight Castellan is free to stay back here if it wants to, but this thing is going to die now, right? Because we've moved the Wave Serpent close enough during our turn to where we can pretty easily access this Castellan and kill it. And that's probably what we're going to go for. This is going to have to probably get to the middle to put some pressure on the middle. So we're just going to move 12 inches like this. Again, it's going to just shoot and kill this guy. And then these models over here can't really move. We've done a really good job preventing these from moving. So they're just going to have to stay. And this model is going to have to move closer to the Swooping Hawks. As soon as it does move, if it does choose to move, which it doesn't have to, it could just stay right there. It's possible for you to Overwatch, although truthfully, Overwatch is not going to do a lot of damage. It might do a couple points of damage and that's it. So it's not really a great play. But as you can kind of tell, this Knight Army, it's not moving as fast as it wants to. It's not putting enough pressure on you. It's really hard for them to actually maneuver around the battlefield. And by turn 2, we have a lot of things that can just pop out and kill our opponents. The more they put stuff on the objectives, the more we just slaughter them, right? They come on the objective, they get to the objective in any creative way they can, and then we kill them. And it's just rinse and repeat all game long. They just can't do much about it. And honestly, one of their knights is just stuck over here, right? I mean, it can't really do much. I mean, this turn, it might be able to just kind of squeak up and try to get a little bit farther up, right? To try to put pressure on this objective. But on the opposite level, we can now move this Wave Serpent around, drop off our Fire Dragons, and absolutely destroy this guy behind here. The other thing is that your opponent is not going to want to score nothing, right? Because your opponent at this point, guys, is really behind in primary and behind in secondary by a significant amount. So at this point, your opponent might do something like this, right? Might just put the guy on the objective because he knows you don't have any more Corsairs, so you can't just take the objective away from him. And this is when the Wave Serpent with the Fire Dragons comes in and cleans up, right? Because your opponent has to make a move like that. If they keep playing safe, I'm just going to pick up this Armiger Warglaive, move back into the Wave Serpent, and be done with it. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And eventually I'm going to capture this objective. Okay. So let's just do the short version of this. Corsairs die. This guy dies. Swooping Hawks, they're not going to be shot at because you could fade back. So they're just going to get charged. Probably tank shocked by this guy. And he's going to kill all of them. All right, let's just assume all of them die. They're dead. Then he's going to use that challenger card to consolidate 6 inches and get on the objective himself. Boom. Right? And he will take this objective. He'll have this objective and this objective by the end of the turn. But that's all. He's not going to be able to kill anything else. So he has scored overwhelming force. Let's just say he uses sabotage with the big knight in the back. So he's going to score overwhelming. Wait. Overwhelming force. And that's it. Sabotage doesn't score yet. Okay, he's still behind by a significant amount. As you guys can see, even though he's going second, he's behind by more than 15 points. So it's really not looking good for the knight player at this point. Okay, our next turn. Let's see what we draw for secondaries. No prisoners and recover assets. I think recover assets sucks. So I'm going to get rid of recover assets. I'm going to discard this, draw another one. Assassination. Perfect. Because remember, the big knights are characters, and look what just walked into range of our whole army, right? And then no prisoners. We can easily score that as well because we can kill at least 3 units this turn. So we got good secondaries. For our primary, we're only going to score 5 this time around because our opponent fully went. There's going to be a turn in the Eldar game where you only score 5 primary. That's just how it is, but it's okay, right? Okay, so here's the plan. The knight moved here because it didn't want to risk this just dying and just not scoring any primary, because again, the knight player has to score primary in the game. There's just no way the knight player can win if behind by more than 15 points if they don't put pressure on you. So they're going to probably do something like this. In any case, the Wave Serpent is now going to be able to disembark the Fire Dragons. And again, you know, we do a nice disembark. We go 3 inches. It's like right here. I think these guys are measured. Let's see if their movement is measured here. No, it is not. There we go. All right, so we get the Fire Dragons out. Again, we could measure from this little tip right here, which is, you know, some people think is cheese. I don't. If the tips count for line of sight, then we can definitely do that. So we're going to move Fuegan right here against the wall. And then all the Fire Dragons behind. But we're going to just use Fuegan as like a little, you know, basically movement counter so that we can go ahead and just move their 10 inches. We're going to move our 10 inches up. We're going to do our advance roll. And we're going to get right in this pocket right here, right? So, again, very easy to do with Warhost is just make sure that you can get right up in this pocket here with our Fire Dragons. We'll get Fuegan back here. He was the first one up, so we'll just kind of do something like this. We'll move these guys a little bit farther back. Fuegan and friends are right here. Let's turn off this because we don't need this anymore. And again, these 2 models are going to die because what we're going to do is we're also going to activate Lhykhis. Our opponent has finally engaged. By the way, once they engage like this is your go turn, right? So we're going to put Lhykhis back here. Boom. And they're basically done for because Lhykhis can charge whatever is going to survive. So we're going to get her like right up here. They're going to charge in and they're going to take the objective from our opponent. And then guess what? All of our opponent's models have shifted away from the Fire Dragons onto this objective because they've sensed blood in the water here. They've finally gotten rid of our screens, but we're okay because now we have a permanent 10 points a turn, right? And we're probably going to prevent them from getting points here as well. All right, so the Wave Serpent is also going to move, guys. It's going to move right here. Boink. We're going to move it right there, pivot, and get right in position right there. Beautiful. Again, it has enough movement to do this small move. If we use something like, you know, advance roll or even just star engines, we can just use star engines on it and it can get there. Okie dokie. So here's what's going to happen. Pretty much all the Fire Dragons are going to be in range of, melter range of the big guy. And the small guy is not going to be a real big deal because we're going to do a tiny bit of split firing over here. And if our opponent wants to use rotate ion shields, that's totally cool because we have a big unit of Fire Dragons that are all going to have sustained hits 5+. It's basically how it's going to work. So we have another move to make, though. We have a couple of other things to do. We're going to engage with these Howling Banshees. Now, our Howling Banshees can't take a tank shock, so we have to engage with them. So we're going to move out. Possibly throw a grenade. We have the CP because we have Eldrad and we saved the CP from before. So we've been kind of, saving a little bit of CP here and there. It's turn 3 now, by the way. So we have our Howling Banshees out here. We could also use a free, grenade anyway from the Autarch, which is nice. Jane Czar might go after this. We'll see. Actually, here's what we'll do. Malgan Raw. We're gonna keep this guy out here, Eldrad, because he's gonna go ahead and cast Doom on this model. So we're gonna move him out. And again, I know this seems really funky, but trust me, this is what you do with Eldrad sometimes. You gotta just get him on out there and put the Storm Guardians where they need to be so that he's not, completely out of coherency. So I think if we put him like that, he's definitely within coherency of at least 2 other models. Yep. Okay. So we're going to Doom. Hopefully we're kind of in range here. Let's see. Doom. Okay. All right. We're going to have to move the Banshees, and we're going to have to do something with Jane's Art Squad, which is fine. We can go ahead and move them. At this point in the game, this is destroyed. We can just count that as destroyed. So Jane Czar and her Banshees can just advance to here. Get a better battlefield position. We could also charge the middle knight. Honestly, though, I'm not convinced this is a good idea because I think we could probably do something better with Storm Guardians. So let's go ahead and move the Storm Guardians out, and let's just move them to the objective. Let's do their 3-inch move or whatever. Get them to this objective. I know this is a little bit far, but this is 9 inches, so I moved Eldrad a couple inches. We'll say that we advanced as well. All right, so we can just get our models on the objective so we can have OC on here. Boom. At this point in the game, it's okay because we're going to kill most of their army this turn. So we move our OC up. We got our OC on the objective. We got our Dark Reapers. We're going to go ahead and move them into position. We're going to kind of come over here this way. Again, by the way, with the Reapers, you can have the missile launcher. You do not need to have the Tempest launcher. It's just something that I like. But I do really like the missile launcher as well. So there you go. Now, what do the Warp Spiders do? Well, we want to stop them from being able to counterattack with this Knight, right? Because if we look here, this Knight can move 10 inches. And if it moves 10 inches this way, it can tow the objective and fire on these Storm Guardians and kill them. So we maybe do a jump with these. Let's just test it out. Let's see how far we can get with a 27-inch move. 27. 27's like right here. I don't know if that's good enough, guys. I think, yeah, I think, you know what? We just leave them there. If the Storm Guardians get shot, no big deal. And I think we just move the Warp Spiders up so that we can do something the next turn. I think that's the best maneuver. So there. Everything's in position. So now we're going to go ahead and start, shooting away. We got the Dark Reapers here to shoot this Knight, which all of them do have line of sight. Howling Banshees are right here. Again, this took 6 wounds earlier, so it's not exactly at full health. Storm Guardians here can fire some fusion guns in here, which are, up here with... Where are they? Hold on. They weren't supposed to... I don't know why that happened. These guys, the fusion guns are always supposed to be in the front. Hold on. Again, sorry for the sloppiness here. I just... it's not like I'm playing an actual game. I just want to show you guys kind of the ropes on this. Obviously, do pay attention to that stuff. There we go. All right, so we're going to Doom the Knight, Castigator, or whatever big knight this is. We're going to go ahead and just keep everything pretty much the same. We're going to keep the Howling Banshees right here. Again, if they want to charge us this way, we have a Heroic Intervention that we can do possibly. So, Jane Czar can get into the mix and possibly stop them from scoring there. And we're just going to go ahead and set this up. So, Lhykhis is going to go ahead and shoot first. And she's going to go ahead and shoot at the Knight Castellan. To be honest, I know that they're going to do the rotate, ion shields or something like that. So, we're just going to put all all the warp spiders into this Castellan. We really need to kill that thing. I'm not super afraid of the Armiger Warglaive, to be real, right? I'm more afraid of this big guy. So, Lhykhis and the warp spiders going into the biggie. Gonna roll to hit. It's gonna use the 4+ invul right now. So we're gonna roll to see how many attacks she gets. She gets, I believe it's D6 + 3, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, D6 + 3. So that's going to be 5. Automatically hits. And it's strength 6, so it's going to wound on 5s. Well, there we go. We got some cool, good wounds. We're not going to use any kind of, aspect tokens yet. So we got 3 so far. AP -2. What does our opponent make as far as saves go? They get a 4+. They don't make any. So 3 wounds so far. We'll just, again, I should have put wound counters on them, but we'll just go ahead and say 3 wounds so far. That's Lhykhis. Warp spiders, 4d6. The Exarch has the, dual blades. We get 17. It's going to be 15, 17. We're going to need 6s on these. Okay, nothing. That is a shame. Okay, so probably should have done some wounds to it, but it didn't. That's how the cookie crumbles. Lhykhis rolled exceptionally well, so we'll just call it a day with that. Fire Dragon time. Now, at this point, the Castellan, we're going to get a 5+ sustained hits. We're going to activate sustained hit stratagem on these guys, and we're going to go to town. So, a couple things we can do. We can just unload everything into the night and kill it. That's one thing we can do. But it has a 4+ invul save. This only has a 5+. And what I think is the better move here is to split fire just a little bit into the Armiger Warglaive, because it only has 14 wounds, and we can always charge it with Lhykhis, right, and finish it off. So, again, I mean, I hope I learned from my lesson here, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to send Fuegan, and pretty much everybody except these 3 models, we're going to fire the Exarch and 2 Fire Dragons into this Armiger Warglaive, everything else into the Castellan. And we're going to see kind of how that works out. And again, if we don't end up killing it, oh well, Well, here's what we'll do first, actually. Just so we have a little bit more information. These Guardians are going to go ahead and shoot at this Helverin, right? So we're going to do that first. 2 fusion guns. Let's see what that does. 2 hits. Great. Let's see if we roll to wound. We need 5s. Oh my god. Great. Balls of fire. We got both of them. Do they make 5+ invul saves? They do not. How much damage do we do? I can't believe it. So this is one of those moments in 40k. It just, sometimes it happens, guys. Sometimes it happens. So we just killed this thing with 2 fusion guns. The Aeldari are, in fact, the superior species. All right, let's go over here. Let's do the grenade from the Autarch, and we'll do shooting as well from him. So the grenade, our luck will balance out probably at some point. Yeah, right there, right? So we got 2 mortals so far on the big one, so he's at 18 at the moment. We'll just count it in our heads. He's at 18. Fusion gun from the Autarch. It hits. Now, it does not wound, but we're going to just use an aspect token to put it to a 6. He gets a 5+ invul. He misses it, and we do 7 damage. So he's at 11 now. So this big knight's at 11. 5 pistols from the Banshees. Okay, I'll take 2 more saves for him. 2 4+ here. He makes 1 more, so he's at 10. All right, 10 wounds is very respectable. We're going to fire Malgan Ra and his models into the knight. Malgan Ra, we don't have an aspect token anymore. Hits on 2s, but he hits all of them. He does not have sustained or lethals, but he has dev wounds. So we're going to go and roll right into the wound roll. We do get 1 wound, and remember, it's doomed. So we also get these 2 as well. So he takes 2 more wounds. He's at 8. Does he make the saves? He does. So now we have regular Dark Reapers. All we need is a couple more wounds here. 2 miss. 4 is the wound because of Doom. He takes one more save at 5+. Oh, he makes it. Let's see about the Tempest Launcher, guys. 11. Wow, 11 attacks. That's kind of crazy. I'll take it, though. That's 10, 11. There we go. All right. I don't know why that's not... Oh. I guess it did roll? No, it didn't. Hold on. All right, so not a lot of hits here. It does hit on 3s because we can see. And then it needs 5s. Wow, really awesome from the Tempest Launcher for some reason. And there you go. It takes 3 more wounds. So now it's at 5 wounds. This thing is at 5 wounds, guys, and we can still charge in our Banshees. And we can still, you know, I mean, we can't do much more. But yeah, we can charge in our Banshees and kill it, probably, at 5 wounds. So we've done a lot of damage to this thing. Now what we have to do is find out what we want to do with the Wave Serpent. Now, since this is dead right here, that makes it easy. We're going to fire a Bright Lance right into the Armiger Warglaive and the Shuriken Cannon and all that. Bright Lance. It misses. Typical. And the Shuriken Cannon. Yeah, the Shuriken Cannon is going to get a lethal hit. Does it wound? It wounds one time. So it gets 2 wounds here. They roll their 4+. They miss 1, so it takes 2 damage. We're just gonna... So 3 damage on this big guy right here so far, and we're gonna have 2 damage on this little knight. Again, sorry that I don't have the actual numbers on here, but you guys kind of get the idea. So it is what it is. Alrighty, so we continue. The Fire Dragons are next. Now, since we have we've done a little bit of damage to this, we've done a little bit of damage to this, and we've kind of seen what we have on the battlefield, I have now considered... Well, here, let's... First, I forgot the Warp Spider thing. I forgot the Warp Spider thing here. Okay, so we'll take a... Here's what we'll do. The Warp Spiders didn't do any damage anyway, but we're going to lose a Warp Spider, and we're gonna put a wound on the Exarch. Sorry that I forgot that. I know some people are going to be commenting about it. There we go. All right. I'm thinking we just throw everything into the Knight Castellan here. That's personally what I think. But part of me is like wanting to fire a couple of fusion guns into this guy and just see what happens. They don't really have any more CP. They've already used the, 4+ invulnerable save here. They've used a tank shock a couple of other times. I mean, I don't think they have much CP left, but they could have like maybe 1 CP to use or something like that. It's possible, but they haven't killed my Warlord, so they're not getting all that, extra CP from achieving their, honorable chivalric code or whatever their detachment bonus is. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to play it a little more safe. I'm going to fire 3 normal Fire Dragons at this little one, since it's already taken, 2 wounds, and I'm going to fire the rest of them at the big one. We do have sustained hits, so I think we're fine. Let's do the big knights first. Let's do the Exarch and Fuegan. So we have the Exarch in red and Fuegan in blue. Exarch in red here and Fuegan in blue. And let's roll them. So the Exarch misses, Fuegan does hit, but we get a reroll, right? Because it's a vehicle. So I'm actually gonna take a chance here and reroll both of them. I know that seems wild, but we do have aspect tokens that we can use to just boost them to 6s anyway, so why not? Okay, so Exarch misses twice. Fuegan gets a natural 6, which is a sustained hit. So we're just going to boost this to a 6 as well for 1 aspect token. Boom, right? So now we're going to get sustained hits on 5+. So it's normally 6, but we're going to press that button. We're going to get 2 more attacks. Roll them. We're going to be wounding on 3s. Because the knights are no longer toughness 12. And we reroll that 1 wound. Rerolls successfully. So they're going to have to take all these 4+ invuls. Can they do it? The big knight does not succeed. Does not succeed. So it's basically dead, right? I mean, we roll our dice. We get a reroll damage rolls. That's really high. Wow, we just popped it out of the sky with that. Usually, though, with that many Fire Dragons, we're going to be able to kill it anyway, but Fuegan and the Exarch just took care of it. They said, hey, we've been practicing for 400,000 years, or 4,000 years, or whatever. and training for this moment, and we just did it. So this is going to be just flat out from Fuegan, 22 damage. That already pretty much kills it, and then the Exarch's going to put it over. So it does die. Again, we're going to remove this model. Goodbye. And then the 3 other fire dragons, let's shoot at the Armiger Warglaive and see what they do. So the 3 other fire dragons, pretty average. Let's see if this one hits. Let's try to get a crit. And we do. So we do get crits here. We're going to go sustain 6, and we have a sustain 6 on 5 as well. Or no, sorry. Excuse me. Lhykhis didn't hit that. So we're just going to get 3. Rolling to wound. Re-rolling. All right, now, terrible roll, but we do have an aspect token. So we're going to go ahead and boost one of these to 6 using the last aspect token. Do they make their save? They unfortunately do. So, yeah, unfortunately, we didn't realize that the Fuegan and the Fire Dragon here would just blow this thing up so easily, but there we go. All right, the Armiger Warglaive. It has 12 wounds left. It's kind of unfortunately impossible to kill now. You know, a little bit of a math mistake here, but let's just charge it with the Warp Spiders. So we're going to charge in. We're going to try to kill it with Lhykhis and friends here. I think we don't get the kill, but we can get close to the kill, if that makes sense. So we're going to move them into combat. We're going to use consolidation like it matters, but whatever. We're going to try to get this thing gone, right? Now, the other thing we can do is we can fire and fade with the fire dragons and then get back into transport. So that's also what we're going to do. We don't have to do it. And personally, I don't think there's really much that can stop us. We can just fire and fade right here, and there's not a lot that can attack us. But let's just, for safety, get back in the Wave Serpent for a command point. Okay. And again, you guys are wondering how I have so much CP. It's turn 3. I have Eldrad. So I'm getting 3 basically extra. By now I'm getting 3 extra, and we didn't really use a lot of command points before, and we've been able to use a free stratagem via grenade on this guy, so you know we have enough CP for some insane stuff on turn 3. All right, let's see how much damage we do. Lhykhis is going to go ahead and strike first. She's going to get, you know, her lethal hits and extra attacks and all that good stuff. So let's do the Rend Weaver. It's 5 attacks. We're going to go ahead and roll to hit on 2+. All hit. We do get a lethal hit. And wounding on 5s, we are going to get a wound. So our, whoops. Okay, that was 2. So our opponent makes 2 5-up saves. Okay, that Armiger just doesn't want to die, I guess. So, boom. Makes them. And the Exarch gets 10 attacks. Does get some lethals here. And re-rolling these wounds if they miss. So we got, yeah, we wound on, I think we wound on 6s. Yeah, we wound on 6s. So we're going to go ahead and roll all these again. 6. 6. 6. Oh. All right, did you guys see that? Oh, God, that's great. Okay, so roll them all. See what they make. Well, they don't make, yeah, they don't make all of them, but they do miss 3 of them, so we're going to do 3 more wounds to it. Not what we were hoping for. It is going to get 8 attacks, but it's not going to get sustained because it didn't charge, so it's going to get 8 attacks. Hitting on 3s. Uh-oh. Wounding on 2s. All right, we get to make some 4+ saves here. We roll 3 die. So 1, 2, 3. Unfortunate that we couldn't swing that in our favor. So that is a little bit of a problem. Now, what we could have done in hindsight is we could have charged the Banshees in, right? We could have charged these guys in, and, you know, we could have moved them with their advance roll and stuff further than this and moved them over here, charged in, killed it. But I was overconfident in Lhykhis' unit, and I paid the price. So, again, lesson for you guys. Unfortunately, bad. And sometimes this just happens in Warhammer. There's not much we can do about it. But I think overall the game plan has worked. This Warglaive is pretty much done for. Like, it can't really engage Lhykhis and the Warp Spider. Like, Lhykhis has a good armor save. This is just not built to take Lhykhis out. It doesn't have a good enough combat profile. The Wave Serpent is, and, you know, guys inside can easily kill this next turn. Only has 9 wounds left. You know, Janzar can come over here, take care of it. We've basically destroyed one of their big knights here. We were going to go ahead and charge in here, so let's just do that. Right? We only have 5 wounds left. Maybe we get lucky here and just kill it. Boink. We want to make sure we're outside of 6 inches, though, for heroic interventions. So we're going to stay outside of 6. Boom. All right, let's go ahead and see what the Banshees do over here. Because we kind of, the Dark Reapers, unfortunately, didn't do enough. But let's see. So, the Autarch, going to get 4 attacks. Hitting on 2s, wounding on 5s. We do get, or no, sorry, 4s because of Eldrad. Remember Eldrado. We got that 4s to wound. So, let's see if they make enough saves. They don't, so he dies. So luckily, Doom came in clutch and we killed this. So we've killed 2 of their big knights out of 3. Unfortunately, we couldn't clean this up, but we have control of the center objective. They really have nothing much that can threaten the center. Plus, we have heroic intervention possibility. This they're going to kill, right? So during their turn, they kill that. And they take the objective from us again, which is fine. Again, it's not that big of a deal, but, you know, we'll probably die to shooting, so let's just get rid of these guys. We might do a little bit of damage in return if we get lucky, but we're just going to kind of fly through these last turns. Take this objective. By the way, they're going to score, let's see what their points are again. Sabotage, they're going to score, so they're going to score 3 on that. Because remember, their big knight in the back survived. We score Assassination and no prisoners for max because we've killed 3 units. So we score 6 and 5. Boom, boom. That's our turn. Their turn. They get, you know, 10 on primary because their Warglaive survived. And it probably really shouldn't have, but whatever. They get 10 points. They draw their secondaries. They draw another challenger card. Have to discard that and draw another one. I don't think the challenger cards are going to help them, guys. So for each objective marker they control, they get 1 point. Or you can give something lethal hits or sustained hits. I guarantee you they don't care about this one. They're just going to go for the points at this point in the game. They get no prisoners. They get defend stronghold. They're going to get defend stronghold. They're going to get no prisoners for max, probably. Let's see. Let's see how many units they can actually kill. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3 with the Warp Spider. I don't think they kill Lhykhis. Let's see if they kill Lhykhis, but during their turn, but let's see. So, again, the guy's going to get 8 attacks. Let's go ahead and do the 8 attacks. Doesn't get the sustained hits. Hits on 3s, though. Wounds on 2s. So, I make these saves. So, the Warp Spider makes however many 4+s he can do. So, there's 4 here. Just remember 4. 1, 2, 3... Okay, he's dead. So he died, glorious death. And Lhykhis is left. Does Lhykhis kill this guy, the Armiger Warglaive? Let's see. Rendweaver, I forgot the extra attacks last turn. It wouldn't have mattered, but whatever. Rendweaver. Okay, no lethals. Do get some 6s, though, so we're going to go ahead and roll those. Come on. And they only make 1 of them, so he takes 2 more damage. This is looking pretty decent. Only has 3 left. And we're going to go ahead and... I think he only has 3 left. Am I wrong here? No, wait. No, we did 5 damage. All right, so... Yeah, no, he has 9 left. So now he has 7 left. So we're going to go ahead and do our extra attacks here with the other thing. Get a lethal hit. We get no more 6s, so they make 1 little 6-up save here. Or 5-up. Can they do it? They don't, so they take 1 more wound. So they're going to have 6 left. So, okay, so now it's 6 left. All right, we'll just keep it at that. Okay, so did they realistically score no prisoners and defend? Yeah, they got the no prisoners, right? They got 3 units there. So we're going to go ahead and give them the points for that. 6. Defend stronghold. We're going to take it from them, by the way, guys. Remember our Warp Spiders. And they're going to score... Yeah, so they have 2 points for the other objective, right? For the challenger card. So they got 0 here because they used it to deny me points. But they got 2 points for this challenger. So down by 10 right now. How are they going to move? They have to keep something on their home objective because they have defend. So I would, if I was them, I'd even kind of consider moving here to try to stop my warp spiders as much as possible. But as they're going to soon find out, it's not going to be able to happen. This guy, again, I would just try to move towards the center a little bit, try to advance him up here so that he can have some impact on the battle. And that's it. That's all they can do. So let's go ahead and go into my next turn. Secondaries, overwhelming force, easy. Sabotage, easy, right? Both of them really easy to do. I can actually sabotage in their deployment zone. So that's what I'm going to do. So here we go. So here's how we're going to do this. Lhykhis can sabotage, right? Now, the thing is she can't fall back and do an action. But if I destroy this, she is no longer engaged and therefore can do an action, right? Now, I don't think it's at the start of my shooting phase. Let me just check. Let me double check, because if it's the start of my shooting phase, then unfortunately can't do it. It just says, yeah, start your shooting phase. Okay, so I guess it is the start of your shooting phase. So unfortunately, I'm trying to cheese things here, but you can't do it. So instead, what we're going to do is we're probably just trying to get the wave serpent there. So I can just fly over this. This is only 2 inches. So we can just fly over this with the wave serpent, and we can go, you know, basically over here with the wave serpent with star engines. So we're going to do it. We're going to see if we can do it with star engines. Let's see. 4 inches, that's 5, 6 because of Warhost. So we're going to be flying with 6 inches. We're going to be flying 20 inches. So I'm just going to put it right here. Perfectly tucked into the corner, and you know, maybe just boop. Nope, can't do that. So we'll just keep it there. That's fine. I don't know, for some reason it's being difficult. There we go. Alrighty, so sabotage with the wave serpent. Now we're gonna dump out the fire dragons once again. Boink. They're gonna get to where they need to be. They're a little bit outside of 3 guys, I know, but they're going to just be crowded around here. We're going to shoot this Armiger Warglaive. I'm going to skip the preamble to this because Armiger's going to die at this point, right? We saw these guys just murder a big knight, so that's done. Lhykhis is right there. That's fine. She could have fall back shot and charge, but not going to worry about it. Eldrad and his unit, seeing this big knight come over here, are going to basically, you know, just stay there, because they need to like try to hold something. We have this objective. At this point, Lhykhis should be towing that, so I think we're good there. Or, you know, maybe we just... No, we can't do that. Maybe we fire and fade, right? Fire and fade with Lhykhis if we need to onto this objective so that we can hold it. And I just want to check my secondaries once more. Okay, oh yeah. All right. So sabotage. What's sabotaging? Well, I think at this point in the game, we got the wave serpent to sabotage. We have overwhelming force. We already scored 3 on it. We need another kill here to get the full points on it. So we have this stickied. So I think this is the point in the game where I just kind of do this, right? So we move Eldrad's unit during our turn. I know I'm kind of doing this out of order, guys. Again, forgive me, but we're just trying to kind of go through this. Move like right here. This is stickied. If they want to move on to the objective and unsticky it, that's fine with me, because we're going to put more OC on this so they can't capture it. I moved 9, which I'm going to move an extra inch because we're Warhost. So we're going to move 10 just because of the, you know, ability that the Warhost has to give an extra inch to our guys. Doom here, and we're going to start shooting. We could shoot this Armiger, but I kind of feel like it would maybe be better here, and then we could use a command point to re-roll the charge if we need to on a 7. But I don't think we're going to even kill this. So we're going to go ahead and shoot at this. Let's see what the fusion guns do. Again, holy crap, the fusion guns did great last time, but I don't think they're going to do it again. Yeah, they do get 1 wound. Does he make an invul save? Yes. Okay, so we're not going to even worry about the flamers or anything like that. We're just going to or doom him. We might do some wounds, but the main goal of this is just to get enough OC on the objective that they can't really do anything about it, and then we're going to hit -1 to hit so that they can't kill all of our models, right? So we're going to steal that objective away. Again, this is stickied. I didn't even do primary. Hold on. We need to score 10 points on primary because we scored more points, right? We got... Unfortunately, we didn't have this yet, but we did have this in the center for primary because they couldn't do anything about it. And then we didn't have this, so that's 10. Dark Reapers, we're just going to kind of move them into position. We got Doom going on, so we're going to go ahead and shoot at this. Warp Spiders, we want to deny our opponent some objectives here. So we can just do this, right? 27, can we move here? Nope, they blocked us off, so they're going to get that. So we're going to do something else with the Warp Spiders. We're going to stop our opponent. I don't think we can realistically do that, though, because they could just charge us, but you know what? That's fine. It's not that late in the game. We still got one more turn of scoring left, so we're going to get at least, I think we're going to get 15 anyway, personally. Either way, either we get this objective or we get this objective, right? So we're just going to move Warp Spiders this way and just kind of chill and prevent our Armiger Warglaive friend over here from trying to get to the center. We're just going to spread out a little bit. Spread out. Just so that our friend can't score any points. And get onto the objective. Right, we're going to make sure that we're a little bit farther away. So they're blocking this lane off. So yeah, so as you can see, can't move and probably honestly can't even consolidate with where we've kind of put these guys. So yeah, they're not doing very good here. They're doing very bad. So if this guy charges in, can't realistically consolidate on the objective. Get this guy even closer. We'll roll our dice in just a second. Same thing with this guy over here, right? If this guy, goes around here, charges, can't. If he goes around this way, charges in, can't consolidate onto the objective. There's just no way that they can do it and still score their home objective here. So it's going to be very hard for them to really come back from that. So we're going to move these guys here. We'll roll our dice for the, Warp Spiders here. Okay, that's fine. We do lose one Warp Spider. The Exarch will take a wound. We'll just take, I don't know, this guy. This guy's like the worthless, we don't need him kind of guy. So there we go. Boom, boom. I mean, I don't really like it because this can move like this way at that point, but we kind of made our bed. So, well, here's what we'll do. We'll just do this because I just thought that that's not a good move. So we'll do this so that if our opponent moves 10 inches through here, right, it's going to be impossible to move the base. Yeah, can't move on top of your models. So, boom. He can move like this way, 10 inches, but if he moves this way 10 inches, check out how his base is still within the wall. He can only advance, which means he can't really shoot anything. So if he advances, I'm also fine with that. It's turn 4. So I don't think it does that. I think it just kills these guys and then probably maybe tries to consolidate, but there's not a lot of options for our Knights player at this point. Okay, Dark Reapers, shooting this guy. Real quick, just the 5 Reaper launchers. We'll do that first, and then we'll do Malgan last. 2 misses. Reapers aren't doing that great this game. We got 1 wound. Does the Knight make it? No, he doesn't. He misses his 5 up. So he's going to take 3 damage. He's taken none so far, so we're just going to, kind of put a little dice on him. Or we'll just kind of keep note of it right here. 3 damage so far. All right, Malgan Raw. Let's see what you do. We've also forgotten the Battle Shock tests, but honestly, I don't think it really matters that much. Rolling to wound. With Doom, we got 3, so they make... All right, so they make 1 more save, so they're going to take 4 more, so that's going to put them up to 6 and 7. And what is the Tempest Launcher? I swear, the Tempest Launcher is like doing the best here. 5 dice. Hitting on 3s. Wounding on 5s. Wow, yeah, look at the Tempest Launcher go, man. 2 more damage from the Tempest Launcher, my god. Okay, so that's, shoot, so that's 9 damage total now. Because it had 7, right? So, there we go. So it has 5 wounds left. I guess we could fire the flamers and stuff that we didn't fire from these guys into it and just see if it does anything. All right, we could also throw a grenade. So, yeah, let's just do it. Let's throw a grenade. I know it's out of order, guys. You know, I get it. It's sloppy, but I'm just trying to rush through this. So 3 more wounds. It's at 12. Do the flamers get the job done? Let's find out. So we're going to roll the dice, see if the flamers do it. 7 dice. That's too much. No, it's 7. Yeah. Rolling the dice. It's going to be 5s, so we got 2 more regular saves at 3+. Again, 3+ saves aren't, yeah, it takes 2 more damage. So I think that's it. I think it's dead. I think it just died from the flamers, and like we had some pistols left over. So Armiger Warglaive is done. Again, let's see if it explodes for whatever reason, because the knight's like exploding this game. Nope. I know I forgot a few explosions here and there, but again, I don't really think it matters too much. Now it is our charge phase. So we're going to go ahead and these guys are going to get back in the Wave Serpent. Again, we have all the CP we really need because of Eldrad. Eldrad's going to go ahead and charge in. We're going to assume that we get it. Command reroll. There we go. We're in. Because we needed a 7 and we rolled an 8. So there we go. Boom. Our Guardian squad is there. Alrighty. So, honestly, we're not going to do any damage to this. So we're just not going to even worry about it at this point. We're just going to leave it. So, what happened? What did we score? So we scored Overwhelming Force for Max. We got 6 points on that. We killed 2 units on, or 5, sorry. Max is at 5. We scored 2 on that. And Sabotage we're still doing. But we're probably going to score 6 on it. And our opponent can't do anything about it. So, their turn, they're going to get Defend Stronghold for 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. Discard their Challenger card. Their turn. Draw a new set of secondaries here. And they're going to get another Challenger. Focused Effort or Burst of Speed. Well, Burst of Speed is kind of good. So that can allow them to get onto an objective. But it's turn 4. And they're honestly just not going to be able to keep up. They're going to die next turn. So Burst of Speed doesn't really help. They need to catch up in points. So I would say they're going to need to do this, right? They're going to need to use 2 or more models to focus attacks on 1 unit. They also have Tempting Target and Secure No Man's Land. Tempting Target, if I were the Knight player, I would discard this because they're not going to score it. And I would draw a new one. Secure No Man's Land is good. Extend is good, right? So they're going to go for these. This will net them 9 points. This is their best chance. So, what are they going to do? Well, their secondaries basically inform their decision for us. So, these guys are going to probably just keep move blocking. They need to be able to control this objective still, so they can't move this guy off it. This guy's going to go over here. And this is going to charge into the Storm Guardians. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to save these Storm Guardians, but they're probably dead. Especially after all the shooting and stuff this Helverin's going to put into them. And he's probably going to use some stratagems to help him out and tank shock and all that. So by the end of the day, I think this squad is dead. Honestly. But as a result, we have basically taken the rest of the battlefield, right? Because there's no way at this point that they can really do anything else besides this. Yeah, so, I mean, they could advance onto this objective if they wanted to next turn at the end of their turn, but we're going to stop them. We're going to do the old, you know, we're going to do the old shift-a-roo here. We're going to just kind of prevent them from being able to score max points. Okay, so what do we do in our last turn? Our last turn, we score Sabotage for 6. So, I mean, again, who says you need to always roll fixed with, you know, against knights? So we'll see. Anyway, we are going to score because we have Sticky in the middle, remember, because of our Storm Guardians. We're going to score the full 15 here. Lhykhis was, I think we said she was towing the objective, so yeah, because remember I said that we could even just fire and fade a little bit if we needed to. So she's there. She could have also just, obviously used this CP because we have so much CP at this point. I know I'm not counting, guys, but we should have enough. Sabotage, full points. Boom. All right, last turn. Let's see what we score. Or let's see what we get. Cleanse and behind enemy lines. Well, behind enemy lines is easy. Cleanse sucks, so we're going to use our CP that we get. Oh, and I guess Eldrad's dead, right? So we don't get the extra. That's okay. We don't need the extra CP this turn. I'm just going to get rid of Cleanse, draw another one. Storm hostile objective. All right, there you go. Right? I mean, it's fine, right? It's not really that good, but we can actually score it because they have enemy model on an objective in the back. So we can actually get this, and it's not a no man's land objective, so we can score it. So let's just do that. We can get both of these pretty easily, and we can lock out the game at this point. They got this, so I need to give them 3 challenger points for this. There we go. Alrighty, we score our 15 primary objective points in our last turn, and we're probably going to end the game on like 98, would be my guess. So, simple. Wave Serpent. Hello, Governor. I know that's 14.1, but whatever. We could just move it like this. We towed the objective with the fins of the Wave Serpent, which we have here. Don't tell me it's not, because look, we look here. God. There we go. See, it's towing right there. Boom. Some people will be mad at that, whatever. Fire Dragons are going to get out right here. I mean, they could even get behind the thing and still just absolutely wreck this model right here, but we're just going to kind of get into a position right here where we have models just outside of an inch, right? And we can kind of move over here if we need to with some of the models. Some of the models will be on the objective. Some of them won't, but guess what's not going to be on the objective by the end of the turn? That's right. This thing. But they should be able to fit, squeeze in here. The only reason this was here was because they wanted to block the warp spiders from coming off. So we're just going to, take advantage of that. Warp spiders, what are they going to do? We're already behind enemy lines. We don't care about any of that stuff. This stuff's already just going to sit there probably and just do nothing. So we're going to make sure we're not anywhere close to this objective. Our opponent's probably going to take it, but they're not going to take both. So I'm just going to zoom the warp spiders over here. And just basically this is because, well, actually, I don't know. I don't know why we're doing this. I think it's just, we can't prevent them from like charging and tank shocking onto the objective. So we probably just try to do as much damage as possible to this little baby one so they can't take both. And then Exarch and Malgan Raw just try to take out this last guy over here. So warp spiders move over there. Do they die? They only have 4 this time. The Exarch dies. God, that's awful. Sometimes I hate rolling this because Exarch just absolutely takes it. All right, so we're going to move on the objective there. Warp Spy or Dark Reapers. Again, we're going to just kind of move up a little bit so we can get line of sight on this guy. It doesn't matter if they die at this point in the game. They're not on an objective. What does Jane Czar and the friends want to do? Well, it's the last turn, so honestly, maybe we just move up our 14 inches. Maybe we move 17 inches just because of the extra 3-inch movement right here, and we kind of just call it a day right here. Just make sure that this guy has to really work hard to kill. Let's see if 10 inches is enough here. Is 10 inches enough to clear their bases? That's what we really have to make sure of. Nope. So that's exactly where we're going to move the Banshees. And we're going to kill this with the Fire Dragons. Boom. We're going to get our 8 points. Because we scored, we got all that stuff. Remember, this is sticky from earlier in the game, the Storm Guardians, which is why I love Storms. This is also sticky. And yeah, we shoot some stuff at the armature. Maybe we kill it, maybe we don't, but doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, let's just assume that we don't kill it. Let's say that we get kind of unlucky, and let's see what happens. So we score 8 points. 3, 4. Whoops. Oh, I guess 90 because we maxed it. Wow. Okay. All right, we maxed out our secondary points. So yeah, unfortunately, we're just going to be at 90 points. Yeah, because we can't go over, right? So that's fine. We didn't score quite enough primary, but again, Eldar typically score about 10 points less than normal on primary typically. I mean, a really good player can probably get the max, but against knights, it's a little bit tricky sometimes. So let's see what our opponent does. So our opponent, did I give them points? No, hold on. They did get extend and they did get secure, so they are going to get 9 points. I'm sorry, I did not add their points. There we go. That's their 9. And for primary points, I believe they only had that. Yeah, they only had at the time 1 objective, I believe, right? Or maybe 2. Let's just say they had 2. I'm not gonna fuss about it too much because it's gonna be pretty hard for them to actually win. Oh, wait a second. No. Remember, because no, they did at the time. All right, I'm just gonna say, yeah, they did, right? 2, 1. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, it's 2 points on one of their secondaries. There we go. All right, correct me if I'm in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I just totally forgot to kind of account for them. But this is their last turn. They get marked for death, and they get recover assets. Recover assets is impossible. They're going to discard it for another one, but it looks like their deck's empty. Oh, wait a second. Ooh, yikes. I don't think I added all the cards in their deck. Okay, all right. You know what? Just going to assume they get a card over here. Here we go. Flip. Cold the Horde. Can't score it. Discard it. Flip. Give them Established Locus. Okay, so they have Established Locus and Marked for Death. Obviously, you can't score Established Locus anymore. It's pretty much impossible. You can go into my deployment zone and score it, but then you don't score primary points because you only have 2 models left. You can get Marked for Death, and I basically only have a couple units left, but this is what I'm going to choose for Marked for Death. We're going to choose the Fire Dragons, the Wave Serpent, and what do you know? We're also going to choose Lhykhis because she's out of line of sight. So essentially, their gamma target's going to have to be the Warp Spiders, right? Because that's an easy kill. So they kill the Warp Spiders. Easy. This tries to charge. Charges in. I don't know whether it shoots it, and they shoot and they kill them, right? So that's it. So consolidates. They get the 1 objective. They have 1 objective, which is 5 points on primary, which is what I thought they would get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And secondary points, they have 2 because they got the gamma target. 1, 2. And that's it. That's the game. So we won the game. I know it was a little bit rushed, so I did miss a lot of, the little tiny things here and there, but I don't think it really mattered in the large scheme of things. It's 90 points to 74, and our opponent just really couldn't do much. So that should give you a good idea of how to really deal with knights. I mean, if you protect your fire dragons for the whole game, you can absolutely dominate one side of the battlefield, and you can kill several knights with that squad. You can also prevent them from scoring a lot of primary. And as you saw throughout the battle, I was really preventing them from scoring primary points. I mean, usually a knight player should be able to score more than 30 primary points against Eldar, right? But this is only 30. We scored 40, which is, better than they did. And their secondaries weren't really that great. Because again, it was hard for them to actually score because we were putting so much pressure on them throughout the battle. And also, I mean, they had these challenger points. Oh, you know what? We might want to give them another challenger point, guys, because let's see what they got. 1 or more. Let's see what they have here. 1 or more units from your army are within your opponent's deployment zone. Well, they couldn't really do that well, could they? I mean, they could have moved this guy here and kept that here, so I guess they could have scored a little bit more points. But it doesn't win them the game. It just gives them like I think like a net 2 more points or something like that, because they're gonna lose their primary point, right? Or they're gonna well maybe they keep their primary, but yeah, let's just give them the points. What is it? Establish locus for 4. Yeah, let's just give them the 4 points and the 3 points for challenger, just because. There you go. Right? So they still lose even with so many. I mean, how many challenger cards were they drawing throughout the game? 3, 4. They drew 4 challenger cards throughout the game. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, they didn't use the first one, but even if they used the first one, let's say they scored 3 there, they still lose, guys. Right? So they were super behind the whole game. We dominated that game. I know the score doesn't seem like it, but unfortunately, going second is just a big advantage for armies nowadays because you get to score a bunch of challenger points. But truthfully, it didn't end up mattering. So even in the best scenario where the knight player goes second, they draw challenger cards every single turn. They are just not able to win, right? So this is a pretty strong list for being able to deal with knights. And again, there were some things that I honestly did that I could have done a little bit better in the game. You know, going through it and rushing through it, you do make mistakes. So just keep that in mind as well, that it probably, under better circumstances, I think I could have gotten a little bit more primary. I could have gotten 5 more primary pretty easily, I think, with the mistake that I made with Lhykhis and the big go turn with the big fire dragons. Could have split fired a little bit more efficiently. And I probably could have, you know, maybe scored another primary if I really, you know, kind of went for it, or maybe denied some of the other things, but whatever. It doesn't really matter much because I think the list kind of speaks for itself and how powerful it is. And it really, if you look at what's left on the table, even if it went on, there's just no way the knight player can win, right? Because these fire dragons just hop back in the wave serpent, kill the knight, you know, and it's a rinse and repeat with these fire dragons. And I never thought I would say this, but in this meta, 10 fire dragons with Fuegan is just absolute gold. It just does so much for you in terms of board control and in terms of just destroying enemy units. Alrighty guys, so that's it for our tabletop simulator example and for the video. Thank you for watching. Again, let me know in the comments things that you noticed, but do keep in mind that, you know, I'm playing this game as like kind of like a speed run, right? This is not as real games are much slower than this. Real games are about 4 hours, right? Every player, you know, each player gets about 2 hours of time to play. So, you know, anywhere between 2 and 4 hours is typically what a 2000 point game should take. This was like in an hour. So this was like turbo time, right? So I was playing for both people too. So again, cut me some slack on that. I know that there's probably some little slightly better moves here and there that could have been made, but this was just to show you guys what the list can do and the general ideas of it. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube who have supported the channel over the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, which is really awesome. If you do want to support the channel on Patreon, I do have free trials that are activated. You can get into the Discord for free for no cost to you. I also offer a paid membership for Patreon, and paid members will get access to ad-free videos on the Patreon. And I do upload most of the videos for free for paid members on there. So, or ad-free, I should say, for paid members. So if you're interested in ad-free videos, don't want to keep watching those stupid YouTube ads, which just keep getting crazier and crazier, you know, come over to the Patreon. It's $3 a month at the minimum, and you get free videos, ad-free videos. I also want to mention that the Eldar Knights Codex project is doing great. We have reached a pretty awesome goal with it, and our artist is due back from vacation in about a week. So once we start getting the art out there, I'll update you guys that, you know, kind of purchased into the Kickstarter, and we will get going on that. I am doing the play testing for that codex tomorrow, and I've been kind of play testing it myself this week, and things are looking pretty fun and pretty good. Honestly, I think that the Fandex can compete with most armies out there. It's a little bit undertuned right now, but that's kind of on purpose for playtesting purposes. I will buff it accordingly if it needs to. But the units are looking really fun. I've been having a lot of fun with them myself, and I'm going to play against a couple players in kind of quote-unquote real testing games very soon. So if you're interested in that, I do have the link to the Kickstarter in the description where you can either create one of your own data sheets for the codex that of course is subject to me kind of looking over it and seeing if it's balanced and things like this, right? We don't want any strength 100, damage 100 weapons. As much as you love the Eldar and want them to destroy everything, we can't have that. So, but, really interesting ideas are always welcome if you want to support the Kickstarter and if you want access to the digital codex for the rules for fun games with your friends on Tabletop Simulator or whatever in real life. We're going to have later on in the project, we're going to have STLs for the different nights. So, yeah, let me know and, support the Kickstarter. That'd be awesome. Lastly, I do offer small training sessions or quote unquote coaching sessions or tutoring, whatever you want to call it, just help with the game on a one-on-one basis. I offer that for my Patreon tier of the Court of the Young King. So if you want to join the Court of the Young King tier, that is $20 a month, and that gives you access to coaching sessions and games, training games with me, practice games, whatever you want to call them, where you can learn how to play the Eldar better, and I can give you tips against the various meta armies that I will be, using to try to help you play better and win your games. All right, that's it, everybody. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.